Welcome back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler here with Johnny. Johnny, what's going on?
Oh, Tyler, it is happening.
What's happening?
Do you know what's happening?
The election. It's 45 days till election season.
No, who gives a shit about that? We're not talking about that ever. Do you know what is happening?
I don't know what's happening, Johnny.
It's happening, Tyler. It's happening.
Stephen King's it?
Yes, exactly. Tyler, we've reached the point of the year where I get to thrust upon you, against your will, Halloween episodes.
I love a themed episode. If you're going to ask me my favorite type of episode, it's picking
I know.
a theme.
You're just like, Johnny, could we have more shark episodes? I promise to just abandon the podcast quickly if we do.
Johnny, it's Halloween.
It's going to be.
You can go to Lowe's and get your Christmas decorations. In fact, you've been able to do that for a little bit now.
It is crazy. It feels weird that we're recording this in the end 3rd of September.
Don't ruin the illusion. It's just going to come out the first weekend of October, and it's spooky season. I just came back from Walmart. It is like Halloween the fuck out already. There's like 3 aisles just candy.
But what's wild to me is a lot of the stuff is already sold out and will never come back in stock, and they're already moving on to the Christmas stuff. You can see them already like encroaching.
I mean, because you don't buy Halloween stuff on the 3rd week of October. You have it out all October. So if you haven't bought it by then, you're probably not going to buy it.
But it's already happening, Tyler. What? We're not in the 3rd week of October.
You should have bought it already. I got to go to Target. So Target has their birds. I didn't realize how seasonal these birds were, but the Target birds have like Halloween versions. We're like dressed up in like spooky top hats. Someone's like a neon green zombie.
Yeah.
They're the best Target birds I've seen. As someone who owns probably 15 Target birds, I'm about to buy like another 5 Target birds.
Did you buy them all?
I told Ada to. I don't know if she did. But
you better find out because they sell out.
What do you mean the Target birds sell out? Are these Funko Pops? They're $5 Target branded decorations. They don't sell out.
Yes, they do, Tyler.
Stop.
They sell out.
Why would they sell out? They have like an entire shelf of them.
Why do you think there's Target birds, Tyler? Because people buy them. Why do you think they're seasonal?
Oh my God, I can get the whole set on eBay for $90, all 8 of them. Oh, they're so good.
I'm the one who sent you the picture of them.
Is this the first time they have Halloween ones?
I don't know, but this is the first time I recall seeing them, but I know I've seen Christmas birds before.
No, they had Halloween ones going back. You got to get the vintage Halloween ones. You can get one from 2017 for $190. Why are we not talking about the Target bird collecting market? This is an underrated collecting market.
Do people collect these? Do they sell out? $190 for a goddamn $5 bird. That's a good ROI.
So there is a set of 4 of the masquerade birds from 2018 that legitimately sold, if buy it nows are to be believed, for $290. Someone paid $300 shipped for a set of 4 really cool Target birds. That's crazy. I realized like $75 each. Oh, I know a Funko Pop that's worth $4,000. This is a $5 Target decoration. There's no rarity here. This was sold everywhere. It's just like if you need to have the one that came out 8 years ago, it's sitting in someone's like closet and they will never find it because no one thinks these have value. I mean, besides the weirdos.
I bet these Target birds are already sold out.
God, shit, you're gonna like make me wake up early and run to Target tomorrow. Johnny.
Yeah.
Should I get the limited run Quake? I love Quake.
Yeah. Yes, you should get 2 of those.
It's for Xbox.
Uh-huh.
It's not even PC, but they have a limited edition and it comes with a statue of the Quake Q.
I feel like that will spark joy for you.
It was so it comes in a box like the generic limited run games like shoebox style of box, and it's shaped like a Quake ammo box, which like all right, I guess that's cool. Is it because there's a 9 Inch Nail logo on some of the other boxes? But it's ruined because it has a fucking ESRB logo on it. So even though it could be the cool thing, it's like, oh, it's just a stupid video game. Anyway, no, I'm not buying Xbox Quake. I don't I don't need that. I guess it is cool that they're releasing just regular ass Quake on Xbox. I don't know why you would pay $30 to play Quake on Xbox, but it's sold out now. I'm sorry. This is like the last day that it's going to be available. It's only available for another day.
Man, you're ruining it for all these people who wanted it.
Yeah. Did you get the Castlevania Dominus collection? You know, while I'm making fun of stupid limited run shit, I bet you bought the Castlevania Dominus collection, Johnny.
You know I did.
Did you get the standard, classic, or ultimate edition?
I bought the regular edition from the Konami store.
That's not limited though. That doesn't count.
Nah.
What games are
normally I buy, look, I've got like the first one I bought like the big box and it's so big and I'm just like, it looks cool, but man, this box is huge and I do love Castlevania, so it feels like I should make an exception. But I'm like, the last one, the Advanced Collection, I just did the one that looks like a Game Boy box, even though it's gigantic. And I'm like, should I do another one of those? I don't know. Tyler, I'm conflicted on those. Okay?
All right.
It's hard to decide.
I'm just not going to buy it. And it's going to be like, okay, and then it's going to be double the price in 2 years. Whatever. I recognize that people like the Castlevania shit. It's going to go up in value. And you know what? If I don't sell it, I'm not going to realize any of that value. And I'm not going to sell it. So it's just going to be this fucking shit that sits on my shelf forever that I didn't want to.
No.
Although
you can't buy this for value.
It does. I mean, you can flip this. You'll make $20 even after all your fees and shipping.
You specifically, Tyler. That's not the royal.
Yes, I cannot buy this. You are correct. This is coming out while this is still available. I do want to say it does have Haunted Castle on it, which is pretty cool. That is cool. The first Castlevania arcade game.
Or you could go buy the PlayStation 2 copy of Haunted Castle that's in Japanese and that you can't play on an American PlayStation.
Okay, is that a thing? Then this is no longer cool because I thought it might be the first console release of Haunted Castle. If it's not, yeah, so that PlayStation 2 one is it. So just go get that, whatever that PlayStation 2 game is. You know, that's our first thing we're going to talk about, Johnny. What is that? It's part of the Oritachi Gessen Zoku series. The port was only released in Japan.
Yes. Thank you.
What is that? What does that mean? It has its own like standalone release? There's no way.
I don't know. It's like, it looks like a super generic box, right? So it's got the castle in it with the title, and then it's just got like an image like of gameplay in the middle of the box. I don't know if it's a collection or what. I'm assuming it's some sort of collection, but yeah. It looks like a budget release.
I've never seen this before. So I'm looking at it. So each of these, this is a series of 19 different games. So they're each budget games, but you only got one game. So you would literally buy, it was 2,000 yen, and you would get Scramble for the arcade. Scramble's a great game. I don't know that if I had a PlayStation 2, I would be like, yeah, I want to go buy Scramble, a 1981 horizontal shooter, and just play Scramble. And so you would get the CD-ROM, including the emulated arcade game, a mini DVD with promotional trailers for the rest of the series, a mini CD. It sounds like you're getting 3 discs in this thing that has the soundtrack and arranged versions of the soundtrack. Instruction books with information about the original arcade PCB, an official mini strategy guide, a replica display card, and a collection card that had the arcade flyer. You know, for 2,000
it sounds like
yen,
a limited run.
Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, when you say it like that, Tyler, it feels like a really good purchase. I don't know. Mine is sealed. I have never opened it.
I'm going to look into these. These were pretty late releases. These were from 2005 to 2007. And there's some games on here. I don't know, Yi Kung Fu, Contra, Puyan, Haunted Castle, Sonic Wings, Time Pilot, Scramble, Crazy Climber. This is a pretty cool series.
It's our arcade release series. Go get it.
This is what I want limited run games to be. What the fuck? So
imagine if limited run did a better job and didn't like try to sell you the CD extra.
This is awesome because I love the idea that if you want to play Time Pilot, it's not part of like a compilation, because everything in America, going back to like the Sega Genesis with like the Midway compilation, like
it's not just Nintendo. America. don't make it an American thing. Like, they've got the whole Sega Ages thing that they were doing over there. Like, yeah.
All right, yeah, and they got Namco Museum. Yeah, it always cheapens it so much. I love the idea that, like, yeah, you're buying this because it's the thing. It's Time Pilot. That's it. We are completely showcasing Time Pilot here. You're not just going to play each one of these games for 7 minutes and then just be like, oh, I guess that was okay. You have to sit down and play some fucking Time Pilot. Oh, this is a cool series. All right, this is a good episode now. That is the Oritachi Gessen Zoku series on the PlayStation 2. Good episode.
There you go.
Anyway, what are you buying? What are you playing?
Yeah, all right. There we go. Thanks for listening. Bye. You want to do an After Dark now?
Sure. Yeah.
Where we talk about Stephen King games?
Yeah, let's do that. And let's put just as little effort into this episode as we put into After Dark.
Okay. Oh, no, too late. We've already been doing research.
You wanted to talk about, there's this author, Stephen King.
Yeah. So here, I have a thing. I want just, because I think about Halloween games, horror, spooky, which is kind of Halloween, horror, and spooky are kind of my 3 general pillars of Halloween games. And they have to fit in one of those classifications or they don't count. And I struggle with it a lot, like what falls into what classification. So it's this, it's hard for me to get it all straight in my brain, but I do have these like very rigid standards that exist. And, people are like, oh, this game had a vampire in it. Does it count? I'm like, no, it doesn't. One-off vampire doesn't make it a horror or spooky. Anyways, so we get into this time of the year. I start to think about, and then, naturally I think of Stephen King and other horror authors, because how many Dracula games are there? There's so many Dracula games, so many Frankenstein games, all these classic horror authors, Jekyll and Hyde, Jack the Ripper, they all have so many games based around them, right? So many, but modern horror authors do not have the same luxury. If you think about Stephen King, one of the most prolific, forget about horror authors of all time, you would think he would have more games based around his material, right?
I mean, it seems like every single thing he ever wrote got adapted into an entire full-ass movie.
But that's not even true, because he's done so much stuff. There's so much that's not even remotely touched.
If you were an author and you got, 40 adaptations into a movie, I think you'd be pretty satisfied, including Stanley Kubrick making The Shining, and it's one of the most beloved movies ever.
Yeah, well, it's weird because he doesn't like that movie.
Well, what a fucking nerd you are, Stephen King.
Well, he just didn't like that things were changed, and that's why he okayed a remake. Doesn't
Probably
matter.
thinks Doctor Sleep is better.
Doctor Sleep is a fine movie. It's not The Shining, obviously, but it's fine. I mean, technically it is The Shining. It's the sequel.
I want to know. I want Stephen King to do a YouTube ranking list of all his stupid movies.
He's done some lists of like his favorites, and also doesn't matter.
Okay.
He has a lot of stuff out, right? That's the point we're getting at. But what is missing from all that stuff is games. And the games that we did get, Tyler, that we're going to talk about today, aren't his most prolific works. You would think of all the games there are, especially PC games in like the 1990s and 2000s that involved haunted houses or hotels, which there are more than like a few haunted hotel games, which is weird to think about, in America and in Japan. There's no Shining game. It's not a work that is particularly adaptable as a video game, but it also doesn't fucking matter. You telling me you couldn't make The Shining a point-and-click adventure? Give me a break.
They could have done it. I don't know what's going on. I mean, what you tell me, was The Shining, when did The Shining movie come out?
The first one, like 80-something?
1980. Maybe it was like too early to like just throw out
maybe, but then there was even a remake in the 90s, or was that the 2000s?
Wasn't that a TV remake though?
Yeah, I believe so.
Nah, it's not going to generate enough buzz to make a whole ass video game about it.
But it's one. I mean, it's a masterpiece of a movie, right? That like people often cite as the best horror film or best film of all time. Like it gets enough buzz. You would think somebody would do something with it. Like, look, man, there's a Gilligan's Island video game.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I would expect this to be like one of those things that comes out in like 1987, and you look at it and you're like, why did they make the Shining game 7 years after the movie? And it's just because, like, well, someone decided there needed to be a Shining game at that point.
Yeah.
Was The Shining... So, Johnny, I wasn't alive in 1980, believe it or not. Was The Shining as appreciated in its time as it is now? Did people immediately realize, like, oh, this movie rules?
Well, I mean, to be fair... I am also too young for The Shining. I was alive, but in 1980 I was 2. So, you'll have to forgive me if I don't know exactly what was going on in movie theaters at the time.
Let me give you a quick snippet of the Wikipedia article of The Shining, Johnny. The film received 2 nominations at the first Razzies in 1981 for Worst Director and Worst Actress for Shelley Duvall. So, Stanley Kubrick, famously a director that is 100% appreciated in his time every time he made his movies. I'm sure if we looked up the contemporary reception of A Clockwork Orange, people would be like, oh yeah, that's a good movie.
It's weird because as I remember it, everyone was like, oh, this movie is amazing. You have to watch this movie when I was a kid.
I don't remember how I was introduced to The Shining. But I'm pretty sure it was past the let's nominate Stanley Kubrick for a Razzie phase of the movie.
That's wild to me.
That's
that
insane.
It was nominated for a Razzie.
Is it just because like horror movies were so different? Like there are good horror movies in the 70s though. I mean, like how can you think
like Rosemary's Baby was like, well, I don't know. Hollywood was so up its own ass about genre films back in the day.
They hate horror, they hate sci-fi. I know.
Yeah. So, whatever. Anyways, that didn't get a game. It didn't get a game. Can you believe that no one's tried to make an It game? And there is a really good Japanese RPG series. Well, it's weird because it's Twilight Syndrome and Season of Twilight, and they're kind of sister series that are Twilight Syndrome spans multiple games, and then it becomes Season of Twilight later. It's kind of like one focuses on girls, one focuses on the boy. Anyways, it's this whole series broken up into games, and it's about these kids exploring urban legends. It's maybe a game we're going to talk about in another episode, but it feels like it could have been translated into an It game because it does a lot of the same things that the movie and the book do. But there's no It game either. There's no Dark Tower. All of his biggest and best works are not games. There's no Christine, there's no Cujo, nothing.
I mean, I don't know, like Christine, like I can understand, like I can see like there could be like a stupid Maximum Overdrive racing game or a stupid Christine racing game. Like what would you make with Christine? You're not gonna make everything
visual
into a
novel.
Point and click adventure.
I would make a visual novel.
No one plays visual novels in America. And Stephen King's an American author.
Doesn't matter.
I think it's crazy because we've got like multiple Saw games, and the movie franchise grossed over $1 billion. So like, how was no one was like, oh, people love horror games. Let's just like throw some It game together and just have like a bunch of stupid jump scares. There's a Blair Witch Project game that came out nowhere near any movie, as far as I know. Why is there no It game? It's his most popular thing.
Hold on, there are 4 Blair Witch games.
There are 4 Blair Witch games because of that trilogy that came out a while ago. Yes.
Yeah. And were well received. That's what I'm saying. In this era of computer games, you would think this would happen. So what movies did get made into games, Tyler? And that's the question we're answering in this episode.
And don't worry if you haven't heard of all of these, because I'm not a Stephen King fan, and I haven't heard of all these, certainly.
So what made it into game form is really more games that had, or movies, right? So not so much as books. Most aren't based just on the book. It had to have had like a movie, and that movie had to be like a thing for it to get a game because they wanted to do like some sort of movie tie-in. That's where it feels like most of this came from, which is unfortunate. I also thought like early like PC games would have embraced it more, but nope. Like, because early PC games could do anything.
Weren't as much of a thing, I don't think.
I mean, they used all kinds of books just to make weird PC games back in the early 80s.
All right, well then I don't know. Maybe Stephen King didn't like it. Maybe we can blame him.
But he obviously is willing to sell his licenses out. Like, there's a lot of his dumbass short stories, like terrible movies, lots of TV bullshit. He's got a lot of work out there, is all I'm saying. So it doesn't seem like the licenses are unobtainium or anything. They have felt very gettable.
I don't know.
Maybe he just wasn't hip with games. But we did get some, and that's what we're here to talk about. So just a quick thing I wanted to mention to you. There is a call out to Stephen King and Dead of the Brain. Do you know Dead of the Brain?
I know Dead of the Brain because you bring it up like once every 4 episodes.
Okay. Well, what's fun about that is, so in the one of the very opening, Dead of the Brain is, we're probably gonna talk about this in another episode, but it's basically Reanimator. If you know what that is, kind of a lot of it is heavily influenced by Reanimator. Guy falls on a grave and it's Stephen King's grave. So he does get some mention in other games. Alan Wake is basically an amalgam of Stephen King, Dean Koontz, but like really heavily influenced Stephen King. So there's some stuff that exists. But to go back to the beginning, Tyler, I want to bring you to 1985. How do you feel about 1985? Good year for you? You weren't alive?
Wasn't alive.
All right. Well, let me tell you about text adventures, Tyler. You know what a text adventure is? I'm sure you do.
Zork. Zork is a text adventure.
You love text adventures, don't you?
Text adventures are kind of boring, Johnny.
You want to spend thousands of dollars on text adventures.
Well, all right, so that's a different story. If we're talking about do we want to spend thousands of dollars on text adventures, then obviously go get the rarest copies of Zork on eBay right now.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about playing video games, text adventures may be a little boring. I have played Colossal Cave Adventure. I've played Zork and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy just because it's one of the only video games my parents would ever talk about when I was a kid. Other than that, graphic adventures that have a text interface are literally the same thing. They just have a little bit more graphics, and it's kind of nice to have the graphics sometimes.
It is. You really feel like you were missing something when you were just reading the text. Imagine if survival horror was just text instead, Tyler. That's what Stephen King's The Mist from 1985 on DOS game. So, Tyler, here's where I'm confused about this. This is a game solely based on the book. There is a movie that comes out in 2007 with Thomas Jane in it. Yes, that movie comes out, but this is from 1985. It's a text. Why not just read the book? It's just a text. What are we even doing?
John, interactive fiction.
It's barely interactive.
And it's probably somewhat easy to develop considering there are zero graphics whatsoever.
Yes. So The Mist.
Is this an Infocom game?
I don't think it's Infocom, is it?
It doesn't come in one of their boxes, so I'm just going to guess no.
No, it's available in a couple different forms. Did you say it was on the Apple? Right?
The Apple. Sure, it's
Apple.
Made by Tim Apple himself.
Shut up. Did you tell me it was on Apple 2C?
Probably. We wrote this down somewhere. Why isn't this written down over here?
You didn't write it down. That's what you were doing. That's why I was asking, because I didn't see it written there.
Yeah, it was on like PC and Apple too.
Okay. Because you were like, oh, PC, and you made some shitty comment about it, and then you didn't write anything down. So cool. Anyways, hey, that's on you, bud. Let me tell you, though. So this is originally from, again, The Mist, the novella from 1980, which was part of Skeleton Crew, a pretty beloved series of novellas and short stories. Again, adapted in 2007 to a film. As far as the PC game, it's just a text adventure that pretty much follows the movie, the book. So you have some interaction. You get to do Mist stuff. You're in the grocery store. You go through and you speak to people and you gather clues and you find out what's going on as the world is covered in mist outside. The interesting thing about the Mist is not really so much of this game, but kind of the far-reaching effects that the Mist as a story had, not so much this game, is because this idea of this dense fog and how it affects things and the psychological horror and monsters that exist in or behind the Mist is a pretty big deal for games that it influenced, like Alan Wake. And, oh, I don't know. You ever heard of Silent Hill? You like that one, don't you?
I do like Silent Hill, Johnny.
Yeah. So, anyways,
shouldn't I buy just a first print copy of The Mist then, and not the stupid computer game?
I mean, well, you'd be buying Skeleton Crew, so that's a thing. I don't know. I think if you like Stephen King,
what are you talking about?
The Mist.
Oh, okay. I thought. See, I got confused. You're talking about the Stephen King book Skeleton Crew, which is a collection of short stories, right? Not the Sega Genesis game that has nothing to do with Stephen King.
Right. And the Mist, not Mist, the PC game, is a very confusing collection of words used in other video games. Yes. Skeleton Crew is a book of short stories by Stephen King, which is where The Mist by Stephen King originally appears. So should you buy that? I don't know. I love The Mist. I think it's an incredible story. There's also a TV series that eventually came out that was on like one of those obscure streaming stations that you can go get on like Apple TV now. Pretty good. I like it a lot. I like what they did. The movie was actually directed by Frank Darabont, who was a longtime collaborator with Stephen King and actually did The Walking Dead, at least until he had creative differences in the middle of the first season and then was ousted. So, anyways, Frank Darabont, longtime collaborator, did it. And Stephen King said famously of it that he wished he wrote the ending that Frank Darabont gave the movie, because the movie ends pretty dark. I'm not going to spoil it here, but go check it out. If you
Tyler likes it, that's a hint.
Yeah, there is a really good black and white version of it too. If you get the DVD, there's a black and white version that you can watch. That's how they wanted to do it, but imagine that a Hollywood studio in 2007 didn't want to make a black and white film, Tyler.
Yeah, they wanted to make money, not a black and white movie
Yes.
of like a mainstream horror author.
Yeah. So this game though goes for like between $50 and $200 if you can find one. There's none in Solds right now. Everyone is a buy it now. So basically no one wants it really, or there's not a lot of people fighting you for it. So probably wait for a good condition, low price one.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah. I think it's really cool.
Johnny, you said, why would you adapt The Mist, like mystery horror game, into interactive fiction? That seems like a okay fit. Let me tell you about Angelsoft, the company that made The Mist. There's only a few like really prominent text adventure companies that put out like a bunch of text adventures. I guess this Angelsoft is towards the lower end of companies that put out a bunch of games. But their other licensed games were Rambo, James Bond, and Indiana Jones. Those sound like much more fun if they had graphics.
Yeah. You know what? Never mind. I want those text adventures. I want to play Rambo the text adventure. I'm excited for that.
Go get it. Also, actually, High Stakes is apparently a licensed property. Do you know what High Stakes is? Is it about horse racing? It looks like it's about horse racing.
That sounds like an awesome subset to have, though, of like games. What an awesome
if you want to
collection.
know, their original properties are called Voodoo Island and Forbidden Castle. So you might want to go get that Angelsoft set.
I think I have Forbidden Castle.
Well, there you go.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, Tyler, you wrote that it comes with a rad illustrated black and white map, and yes, it does.
It does.
I'm going to say get the Apple IIc version of this game, by the way. That's the version I have.
So it's just because that's the one you have? That looks like the most common one. Sure, go get that. Or just don't get it. Because no one can put a price on it. You know what? Set up a save search. When one comes up and they have it for like $19.99, no reserve, you will win it for $19.99 because no one is looking for this, and the only one that sold was like one desperate guy who bought it. Oh, no one bought this one. People have it for like $50 to $200, but no one knows what to price it at, and no one's even buying it for $50. So,
do you want to know what I'm curious what I bought it for? Because when I bought it, there was like none even for sale. It was like the only one I'd ever seen. I spent $61 on it.
Yeah, that seems. But you're desperate. You just need everything. So, That's not surprising.
That's true. Also, it had hand-drawn stuff in it. The guy wrote a bunch of notes.
Oh, love that. What a nerd. Sitting down in 1985 to write notes about Stephen King's The Mist text adventure.
Yeah, like, dude, he wrote so much stuff. It was so good. I love this little thing I got from him. It was worth all the money I paid for it.
It is. I don't think people value that stuff enough because it's like, oh, you could just make more. It's like, yeah, but to actually sit down and write all that stuff, like you won't, and you could tell which ones are like from the 90s versus my notes over here that I've made recently. I'm immediately thinking of I've got a Might and Magic 1 map, and the whole map is marked up on the back with all these hints and stuff. And since I've played the game, like I know what they were thinking of when they were like I can understand their thought process and what they were writing down. I just think it's the coolest thing. I would never trade that out for a better condition map.
Yeah, people don't value it enough, like you said, and I think it's really cool, and it adds something. It adds a personal touch you're just not going to get anywhere else. Like, especially if you're just putting it on your shelf, and you get to open it up and see like this cool little piece of someone's life. They invested this much time into it. So good. How can you turn that down? It's like also finding original receipts in games. Another thing I love to find.
I mean, those are just awesome.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. So that's The Mist. You don't love that one. If you don't love 1985's The Mist, here's one I know you're going to love, Tyler. Are you ready?
I just want to preface this. I've seen none of these movies. I'm sorry, Johnny. I've seen like all the other Stephen King movies. I don't know what's going on.
You haven't seen The Mist?
Oh, no, I've seen The Mist. I haven't seen what you're about to talk about, though.
Okay.
No, wait. Okay, so hold on. The Mist, was that some movie tie-in from the 80s? Because I've seen the mid-2000s, The Mist.
No. It came the first time the film came out was 2007.
Okay.
Yeah. Fun fact: I took my wife I took my wife to see that on our honeymoon in Orlando.
Romantic. Really set the mood at the end there.
She's like, I know you love Stephen King, but this was a bad choice. Like, we're in the happiest place on earth, right? And we're just like watching the grimmest goddamn film, and just like, oh man. Yeah, let's go have ice cream or something after this one, huh, dear? Yeah. We laugh about it now. She was never mad about it, but she was just like, that was a really bad choice. Anyways, The Running Man, Tyler. You don't know The Running Man?
Big money, big prizes. I love it.
Oh yeah, basically. It's basically Smash TV, the video game. Or the Smash TV.
They made a video game out of Smash TV?
Yeah. Smash TV if it was a movie. So let me give you a little breakdown of The Running Man. First, a lot of time, back then, it's hard to imagine that people didn't know that in 1982, there's this Richard Bachman. Stephen King has a pseudonym that he wrote under named Richard Bachman. And he wrote kind of different kinds of books under there that people think that wouldn't identify with him. So he did these, and this is part of the Bachman books, and came out in 1982. But the game is not based on the book, Tyler. The game is based on the movie, and the movie is quite different than the game. Do you want to hear a little about the movie and the game and how they diverge?
Yes. Also explain what Smash TV is to people who didn't grow up in 1991.
Smash TV is a top-down shooter. If you don't know that, maybe you know Robotron, where enemies come at you from like all areas and you shoot in 4 different or 8 different directions, depending on what system you're playing on. And you're just constant motion, killing waves of enemies, progressing through an arena until you cannot do so any longer.
I meant more the premise that it's a dystopian TV show where you're like throwing like basically the equivalent of a gladiator with a gun into like hordes of enemies, and like you're killing each other for entertainment type deal.
Yes, you are set up. You are in an arena set to face waves of enemies, monsters, other people for the entertainment of the world. And it's on TV, hence Smash TV. The Running Man is basically that in the movie. So that's the movie. You're in an arena and this guy Ben has to make it through, and Ben is played by Arnold fucking Schwarzenegger. Okay. He is just the biggest, burliest guy in the movie. He's framed for a murder he didn't commit, and his sentence is to be put in the arena and compete on basically television for everyone, and people watching, are rooting against him and screaming things. The book, it is sort of the same in that he is put into a game, this game, The Running Man, but it takes place across the whole country, not just an arena. So the book is more about this guy, Ben, Ben is also the everyman. So he's like kind of a generic nobody. So you can like really put yourself in his shoes. You can't really put yourself in Arnold Schwarzenegger's shoes. Like,
Dude,
you can't look at Arnold.
Me.
You're like, I'm just like that guy. That's like, no one's like Arnold. And so the minute Arnold's in it too, it's like completely an action film. And that's what The Running Man is. It's an action movie. The book is a lot more psychological. He's trying to survive going across country, but people can phone in tips and tell them where they are. And if they do that, they get prizes for identifying where he is, to bring the fight to him. So yeah, that's the movie and the book. Now, do you want to hear about the game?
Johnny, tell me about the old computer, 80s computer game, The Running Man, please.
Yeah, so book 1982, right? The game, I think the movie was 1987. The game is 1989, and it's on the Commodore 64, the Amiga, and the ZX Spectrum. And they are all basically the same terrible game. These are not good games, Tower. This is an abomination of a game, really. Imagine one screen that slowly scrolls and like it's not a static background, but they keep that background image slowly scrolling, so it's basically the same image for a long time. Enemy is coming. Calling it an action platformer feels pretty loose. This is a very haphazardly put together game without a lot of quality. It looks best on the Amiga, but that's not saying very much. It looks pretty bad on all these systems. There's no depth in the controls. There's no depth in the game. It's just shooting random guys that come out at you. It looks a lot like Rambo on the NES. Do you know how that game looked?
Better than this, though. I mean, yes. ZX Spectrum games, when they're bad, they are pretty bad. And the same thing with like Commodore 64. Yeah, Johnny, people need to know.
Let's talk about it for a second.
Video games, specifically computer games on these old microcomputers, but like ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, the bad games on them are so much worse than anything that's ever been released on a console. So not when we get into the unlicensed games, we can get some of like the actual like, Cheetah 2, Action 52. Like, okay, that is like the bottom of the barrel. Like these are like legitimately unplayable, unfinished garbage there. But when you think of like the worst NES games, like there are really bad NES games. I'm thinking Swamp Thing on NES. It's just a really bad platformer. It's really hard. And when you get through all the hardness, there's nothing rewarding about it. It's just like a real piece of shit. But that was a $50. Was that a THQ game? It was probably THQ, one of these shitty companies. $50 game that you were expected to buy in Toys R Us. There is a whole swath of thousands of these computer games that were sold a lot in the UK for like £2 at the local drugstore. Like that's a huge leap in budget and a huge leap in expectations, because you would just buy a shitty £2 game off the shelf, and if it sucked, it's like, well, I didn't pay $50 for this.
People often go to ET and they're like, I can't believe this made it through, and like, how would anyone make a game like this? It's got such a game breaking bug. It's like, man, you have never witnessed computer games in the early 80s.
I think everybody don't get like, so there's like these iOS apps, like there's these emulators that collect together the good games. Like, don't do that. Then you're going to see the good stuff. You just need to go to like a Commodore, like one of these big lists of Commodore and Spectrum games. Just like start clicking a few random games and see how bad like the average £2 microcomputer game is.
Maybe find a list of the worst Commodore 64 games and try a few of those.
Sure. The problem with that, like, man, I don't like the worst lists of games. Like, there are some people I bring up Kim Justice a lot because I know she plays a ton of this garbage. But like, if you have like the crowd consensus of the worst games, like no one has played 3,000 Commodore 64 games.
No.
Like, how can I trust the crowd opinion on this? Because if you ask everyone what's the worst N64 game, everyone's gonna say Superman because. Like, what if it's one of the baseball games? But like, no one remembers any of the baseball games, so how could it be?
No, they're not even going to say that. They're going to be like, all of them. There's only like 3 good games on the N64.
Oh, those Collector's Quest guys are always ragging on the Nintendo 64.
Oh, God. I don't even know about controllers. Did we make the controller correction publicly? I don't think we did. The boxed ones for the color. Oh, my God.
So this is not worth correcting. This was too many episodes ago. No one listens to this strictly in order. No one remembers what we're talking about.
It was the extreme colors they were only boxed in Europe.
It was like Europe or Australia, and whatever colors we said were missing didn't actually come out. They only got a subset of the colors. We can't even, it's not even a correction because I don't even have the full information right in front of me. Why would you randomly bring this up?
Because you made me think about it.
Okay. Johnny, Stephen King games. Speaking of, The Running Man for the Commodore Amiga and Spectrum, Commodore 64, Amiga, and Spectrum is a terrible game. And you just need to know that these games exist on another level of awfulness.
Yep. And there is debate amongst people who think about Stephen King games, and there are a few of them out there besides just me. And when we talk about it, we talk about whether this actually counts because... it's really based on the movie, which doesn't do a good job representing the book. So does that really count? I feel like it's tied to Stephen King, whether he likes it or not. And it does count, but it's not good. Don't buy it.
It's $20 for one of the cassette versions, which comes in a little cassette jewel case, or there's one mediocre big box on eBay for $75, none in sold. So the big box.
How big is that big box? Is this like a PC big box, or is this like the Commodore 64 big box, which is like...
Yeah, that's a real big box, I think, on Amiga. So the Amiga big boxes are a little tiny bit smaller than most of the 90s PC big boxes, I think.
Okay. Because, you get some of those like Commodore boxes, which are like...
I would call those like awkward boxes, yeah. They're just like a little bit bigger than jewel cases. Johnny, you can go to retrogames.co.uk, get a complete in box big box Running Man for £25.
Yeah, we should do that.
Just go do that. And you know what? Okay. For £7, pick up the cassette version too. That's way cheaper than eBay. What am I talking about? We didn't get a chance to promote our favorite UK game store yet on this episode. Just go buy those 2 copies of The Running Man.
Yeah, let's do it in this episode. All right. Hey, do go by there though. Like a lot of these games will show up there. The Dark Half though. 1993 is when the movie came out. The novel came out in 1989. You excited yet?
No.
Okay. Do you want to know when the PC game came out? And I'm unsure if this date is actually correct. I need to double check the date.
It is correct.
Because the PC game came out in 1992. And they were developed alongside... and was supposed to be simultaneously released with the movie. Oh, you have a note that it did come out a year before. So this is a point-and-click adventure, The Dark Half. It's weird. Again, this is one of these things, not developed for the book. It had to have a movie that was coming out for them to get this, but they were trying to capture that 90s point-and-click adventure craze that was starting. Here's what's cool about the movie, which we don't have mentioned. The movie is directed by George Romero. That's cool, right? It's a George Romero film.
That's pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I don't know much else to say about this. It's a point and click adventure game, Tower. Like there's a PC version of it. It's not that hard to find. It's not super common though. It runs you about $100. Do you have further notes on the Dark Half for the PC?
I put $100. I don't know if one was ever sold. It just seemed like
one was sold because I bought one.
Oh, okay, great.
I'm like, I could go and tell you how much I paid for the Dark Half if you want.
I think it's a good hipster game. So the Dark Half was developed by prestigious software developer Simtis, who, yes, that's Simtis, we all know. The other game they developed in 1990, 2 years earlier, was Cybergenic Ranger, Secret of the Seventh Planet, which, yeah, We all played that one.
A favorite.
And then the Dark Half was their second game, and then they developed nothing else ever.
I see a trend.
Go play this, and then the next time you're having a point and click conversation with people, as we all do, and everyone's like, oh, King's Quest, Police Quest, Indiana Jones, people bringing up like, Monkey Island, all the same games. Just throw in there like, oh, have you played The Dark Half by Simtis? And you will seem like you know so much more about the genre than those guys.
Yeah. What's cool about it, if you look at the box for it too, the film was released by Orion. The box has the Orion logo on it. If you remember, this is now defunct movie studio. I got mine on the IBM PC version with 3.0 and 5.2, 5.25, 5.25, 5.25 floppies. I had both, and I paid $38 for a tower. This was back a year ago.
Good job.
Almost exactly. This like exactly a year ago. That's wild. I've been waiting that long to talk about this game.
Great.
But I was like, I don't have anywhere to put it because we were already like, the Halloween episodes were already mapped out. I'm like, I have to save it for a year to talk about it. But now here I am getting to talk about it. I'm so excited. This game comes in a fun box. Like, I don't know. I love this. I love that this game exists. I love that they plotted it for the movie. And I love that it's a point and click adventure because I have a soft spot for them.
Do you?
I do.
Okay.
Because the first computer games I ever played were point and click adventures.
I played a lot of point and click games in the 90s. It's like one of those things that was just like way more popular. I'm sure in the 80s too, but in the 90s, because I remember, I played The Mist with my friend. I played The Neverhood. Of course, I played Monkey Island. I played Police Quest. And now, like, you wouldn't even think about playing a point and click adventure game.
No, I like... And back in the day, like, I didn't even know, like, when The Mist came out, I was like, oh man, this is like Shadowgate. I love this. And like Maniac Mansion, like, these are cool games that I can, like, I thought those were just video games. I was poor. I didn't, like, barely had a Nintendo. We didn't have computers. So I had no idea that these were PC games that got translated down to the NES. So I just thought this was how games were made and you had to play them. And then I was like, oh, this is a thing on computers. And then I was like, man, point and click is a whole genre. That's cool. I love it.
This seems like a sad game that absolutely got lost to time and no one will ever think about again because it doesn't have anything going for it except the attachment to Stephen King. Because it got like mediocre to really bad critic reviews. It was the second game these guys made, so like there's the developer is nothing, the publisher is nothing. But you look at the screenshots and the footage from the game, it looks like a full effort game. Maybe all the effort went into the graphics, but the interface at the bottom that has all your actions like look, walk to, open, all that kind of stuff. It's a typewriter because there's a novel. You're the novelist. I haven't read the book. I guess you're a novelist in the game and you're typing the commands. And then the result of your commands gets typed on the typewriter. It looks really cool.
It does.
And then there's a lot of graphic murders. Maybe I just like it because it looks really violent. But like it has a lot of graphics. Like sometimes you could tell that they kind of cheaped out. Like it doesn't look like they cheaped out on the graphics at all.
I think it hurts that they waited that they released this early. I think that if they had released this alongside the movie, it might have done better. But the movie wasn't exactly well received either, even though it was a George Romero film. Man, you would think George Romero and Stephen King together would just bring it in, right? But not here.
Johnny, do you remember Home of the Underdogs, the website?
No.
Okay, so it's gone now, but it was an abandonware website. I was on it a lot in like high school, like back when I was like, oh, you can't download regular games, but whatever. Like once a game's like, however many years old and the publisher's gone, like you can just download these games from the internet without like going to piracy websites. It was an old abandonware website. Home of the Underdogs called The Dark Half the worst adventure game ever made. So
look, man, does that get to make it into our flop episode?
No, I want to do financial flops or stop it. Stop talking about other episodes. Let's focus on Stephen King shit.
This is Stephen. That's what I'm talking about. Just asking.
All right. That is The Dark Half, according to a defunct abandonware website. the worst adventure game ever made. Ignore all the positive things I said about the graphics.
I mean, can we trust them? What about The Shining, which got nominated for not one but multiple Razzies?
Johnny, if you're running a website in the 2000s that focuses on games that are basically obscure enough that no one will sue you for putting up pirated versions, so your specialty is like shitty games no one cares about, and you say that this is the worst adventure game ever made, I feel like you maybe have the most credibility to be believed on that.
Fine, if you're gonna get that technical about it, Tyler, yeah, they're probably right.
No.
But you know what,
Tyler, I paid $37 for it. Don't call it bad.
You look, I don't give a shit.
Make your own opinion.
What do I care? Look, I've paid more for worse, and we know that's true. You get to have this thing that is somehow attached to Stephen King and George Romero, and that seems pretty cool. You know, another movie that Stephen King and George Romero worked on was Creepshow, and that's also a thing I'm surprised doesn't have like a game.
Twilight Zone has games.
You know Creepshow?
What are you guys doing? It's got one of the most beloved pinball machines ever. What's going on with Creepshow? Why does no one care?
Does Creepshow have a pinball?
Nope.
Oh.
Tales from the Crypt has a pinball.
Yeah. And that's, but just all these little anthology horrors, you'd think we'd have more, but we don't. Anyways, I know you want to move on to probably your favorite game on this list.
What are
our
we
series of games? Series of games? The Lawnmower Man Tower? Everybody loves The Lawnmower Man. Have you seen this one?
I sure haven't, but while I was this is a funny story, because while I was wandering Hollywood Video, I didn't like horror as a kid. So the joke my dad always made was that we were going to rent The Lawnmower Man because he grew up with like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So he just assumed that Lawnmower Man was like the contemporary version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which it is not.
No.
But I didn't know that as a kid, so I was terrified of the concept of the Lawnmower Man.
I love this idea that you were terrified of the Lawnmower Man. Like some horror guy out there with like a lawnmower blade that he kills people with. Some people call it a sling blade. I call it that whole bit.
In the Sinister movies, the lawnmower kill is one of the best horror jump scare kills of all time, I'll say.
It's been done, but that's not what this game is at all. Your dad was like, that's Stephen King. That's definitely horror. How about weird sci-fi virtual reality bullshit?
That sounds like it's been done before.
Well, this was 1994, Tower, and maybe it had, maybe it hadn't. I don't know how much you know about the Lawnmower Man, but man, I was in. My cousin and I think I've told this story before. My cousin and I were so in on the Lawnmower Man. After that, it was like Star Trek The Next Generation it's got the holodeck, and Lawnmower Man is showing us the power of virtual reality. And I'm just like, how do I get VR? How do we get virtual reality? And I've been sitting around waiting ever since stupid Lawnmower Man and the holodeck promised me a future that has never been delivered to me. Quotes from random internet people aside, this movie did not send out a message that's been delivered upon, okay? It sent out an idea that has never been realized.
Johnny, your friendly friend Mark Zuckerberg has made a cheap computer you could strap to your face that tracks your eyeballs. Why don't you just get an Oculus? The future is here.
Oh, should I do that?
I don't know. I feel like there's going to be an obvious point where it's like, oh, now it makes sense to buy a VR headset. And, I know, whatever, they've sold like millions of PlayStation VRs, and there's like a decent amount of games for them. It doesn't feel like we've gone over the edge. It almost feels like electric vehicles. Like it doesn't feel like we're like at some kind of critical mass. We're like, oh yeah, it's obviously the time to buy an electrical vehicle. Oh, there's definitely enough charging stations that it's not a huge hassle. I'm waiting for it. I think, the next decade, maybe VR will be good enough that it's just like a no-brainer purchase. I don't think it is, though.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I think it's really cool to have a friend who has a VR headset they can go over and play it for an hour every once in a while.
That's exactly the right answer.
And now everyone who has a PlayStation VR, go look at it in the corner and feel ashamed because you haven't played it in like 8 months.
You know, I finally put mine back in its box and was just like, I'm never doing this again. Can I be realistic about this? Put it in the box. It doesn't need to be hooked up to the TV. It's got like an extra piece, like a dongle that you have to attach. I'm like, I'm just taking this all off. I don't need it taking up space.
I had my PlayStation Eye in my like living room for the longest time because I'm like, man, I just really love Sports Champions. Maybe I'm going to hook up the PS3 again and play Sports Champions. It didn't happen.
Oh, you don't
man,
say.
Sports Champions, it is the best disc golf game ever made. It's so good. Underrated game. And the bocce. Oh, Sports Champions is underrated. Better than Wii Sports.
Maybe while Ada's gone, you should bust it out and just start playing.
Just start playing some Sports Champions?
Yeah. Seems like the right time to set it back up. Put it back in your house. Get the PS3 out.
Every time, if there's a game you have to set up, like DDR or just like any like Rock Band, is because you got like the drums and shit you got to put out. Like once you put that away, just like resign yourself. Like I'm never playing this again. I'm not even just like a PSVR, the little camera for the PlayStation Move, and like the batteries and the controller's gonna go bad. What am I gonna go on eBay and get new batteries for my PlayStation Move controllers? It's just like no, it's over. I'm never gonna play virtual disc golf and Sports Champions again. Is basically what's going on. It's kind of sad.
Well, you know what you could play instead? You could go play the Lawnmower Man. Do you want to do that instead?
Yeah, that's a much easier game to set up and play.
Yeah, well, it depends which version you play. But let me tell you a little bit about the Lawnmower Man first. Tyler, it's a movie that came out in 1992. The game came out in, well, it just depends which version, but between 1993 and 1994. And these are all let me just be very clear, very loosely inspired by the Stephen King short story of the same name. Yeah, they vary wildly. The movie does have a very prominent actor in it. Do you know who starred in this movie?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, Tyler.
No, I don't know actors. I don't know anything about the Lawnmower Man. Is the actor that you're talking about the Lawnmower Man? The only thing I know about the Lawnmower Man, it has the weird 3D guy who it's basically Androst at the end of Star Fox, but with better graphics.
No. So, no, the guy who plays the Lawnmower Man, I forget his name. He is a character actor, and he was in like the Stand TV series, the original miniseries, not the later TV series. But the doctor in it was played by Pierce Brosnan. You got to remember, this is like peak Pierce Brosnan years.
I'm sure he doesn't regret starring in the Lawnmower Man.
Saying, I mean, that's
he went from the Lawnmower Man to
there.
becoming James Bond. So this movie must be something, huh?
Yeah, must have tested well with audiences. So, yeah, in the movie, it's basically drugs and virtual reality training, and there's like telepathy and telekinesis, but the game is more about like the virtual reality part of it. So you can play this on a couple of different systems. Did you know it was on the Super Nintendo? I'm sure you did. The Genesis / Mega Drive, the Sega CD. Come on, you want the Sega CD version, don't you?
I mean, I have the Sega CD version.
I mean, I'm sure you have.
Actually, I got all of these too. Technically, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a PC version as well. Did you get the PC version yet?
Johnny, are you going to say anything interesting about the goddamn Lawnmower Man?
Look, you went and did some research on it, and like we're looking at it, and you were so excited about it. I was going to let you talk about how weird it is.
Okay.
Hold on. You talk about the Sega CD version, because I find the Super Nintendo and the Genesis version far more galling.
Great.
Okay.
Tell me about the Genesis and Sega CD version, or
Okay. Well, first off, the Genesis is the worst version of this game, probably. Super Nintendo is a better version because it's using Mode 7. Genesis just like struggles to do this. I think it's widely renowned that the Genesis version is worse than the Super Nintendo version, even though they're both trying to do the same thing. They are platformers with 3D segments that like attempt to take you into virtual reality, but I don't even know what is going on in this game. It's like 10 different games all in one. It's like almost a collection of mini games in the way that it just switches genres. So there's a part that's like Spy Hunter, there's a part that's just like action platforming, and then it goes into like a top-down shooter, think Commando or Akari Warriors. The platforming kind of looks like Strider. It's just all over the place. It also kind of looks like the Star Wars levels from the NES version of Star Wars. The game is all over the place.
It's got 3D rail shooting segments that have that scrolling. It sounds like the best video game ever. I don't know.
I mean, it sounds like it should be, but it was not well received.
I'm looking at contemporary reviews. It looks like mediocre to okay reviews.
Okay.
That's not that bad. I bet the Game Boy version's pretty bad.
Yeah, so what's weird? Oh man, the Game Boy version is interesting because it wasn't released in America, so it only came out in Japan. I don't know that. Did it come out in Europe? I don't know if it was released in PAL territories, but it's kind of expensive if you're trying to pick it up. It's like a $100 game.
Why would the Game Boy version only come out? That's so weird. Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a European exclusive.
But, well, no, because it's called, like, Virtual Wars in Japan.
Okay, all right. Well, it didn't come out in America.
Nope.
Why?
I don't know. Like, this is such an American movie. I don't understand. This is, like, one of those games that could have been in our episode. Maybe it was the one where we talked about, like, American properties that didn't get released in America. We had a whole episode about that.
It even has like the weird 3D segments from the console games on the Game Boy. Like you would have thought people saw the screenshots and they're like, wow, there's 3D in this game. Look at that. I'm going to play this next to Faceball.
Yep. Let's do it. Anyways, Johnny, go check out Lawnmower Man.
Lawnmower Man on Sega CD is a fantastic gem of a game. As many Sega CD games are. It is an interactive movie.
Oh.
So when I say that, think Dragon's Lair.
I'm thinking
so it plays FMV, and then every once in a while, something really obvious happens. Like there'll be an arrow that points to the left, or there'll be like a tunnel that goes down, and you press down on the D-pad. And that's the game. There you go. The Lawnmower Man. It's over in an hour. And I have not played the Lawnmower Man, but this is not really a game you have to play to understand what it is. And looking at the footage, it looks like there's so much flying through tubes, which I guess must have been a part of the movie because it's in the Super Nintendo version too.
Yeah, because you're going through virtual reality.
The problem is on the Sega CD, they're like, oh, if we're flying through tubes, we could just use the same video clips. So there's like 4 video clips, one where it ends in like an up, one where it ends in a down, left and right. And they just reuse them over and over, and it looks really bad.
Yeah.
So, Johnny, that game looks like it sucks, but it's also the most expensive version. It's $100. The Genesis version is $50. The Super Nintendo version, WATA 6.0A, like, you know, that's probably like the average condition of like a regular complete in box on eBay. Like, you know, 6.0, like it's a little bit beat up. $55. You can get a sealed copy graded for the price of the complete in box Genesis version. That is how worthless this is on Super Nintendo. What the fuck?
No one cares about it.
All these people who are like, "Oh, video game collecting's dead. There's no more deals anymore. Every single game's like $100 because the people are driving it up." Go buy Lawnmower Man. You can go $30 on a complete in box Lawnmower Man. Make a YouTube video about it. Tell me how many genres are in it. How great it is. This is not expensive.
You should do that. And then if you want to be horrified, you can, like, the most expensive version is obviously the Game Boy version. You can spend like $150 on that at least. And that doesn't sell very often, so good luck finding it in box.
I want to take this moment to say, fuck Wikipedia. Because Wikipedia For this next game, we're going to talk about the sequel to Lawnmower Man next. And in that Wikipedia article, it says it's the sequel to Lawnmower Man. And it links to the Lawnmower Man Wikipedia page, which has every version of Lawnmower Man as if it were one game. And you know what? Maybe somewhere in the text it notes that, like, oh, this is a different thing. Lawnmower Man on even the Game Boy, Super Nintendo, and Genesis, those can basically be considered the same game, even if they are, pretty different when you come to the Game Boy thing. The Sega CD one, not even the same genre. It's like, it's not the same thing. It's like calling, like, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the NES game the same game, because they're both called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's madness. Moby Games has it right. Moby Games splits it out into two different games when they're completely unrelated. But Wikipedia, apparently the people at Wikipedia just think, oh, we can't have two Lawnmower Man video games. That just wouldn't make sense, even though there are at least two Lawnmower Man video games. I'm just saying this because I see Wikipedia over time. I know they're not listening to this show, but someone is out there fixing video game collector stuff on Wikipedia, or just like video game history stuff. And you see the lists, they get better over time. They start getting sources for the release dates and things like that. They start taking off things that aren't sourced. This obviously isn't a Lawnmower Man problem. All the games that aren't really the same game, fix it. I want two different Wikipedia articles. Maybe there's a problem because they can't have two articles that are both named Lawnmower Man parentheses video game, but that's not my problem. That's Wikipedia's problem. Figure it out.
They could do Lawnmower Man parentheses Game Boy game.
Yeah, sure. Whatever the thing is that they got to do.
I mean, these games are all distinct versions. So here's my problem. And I've talked about this before. And this, like, especially when it involves Genesis, right? And how they count games. These aren't the same games. The Super Nintendo game and the Genesis game, they're in the same ballpark. They're trying to do the same thing, but they're not the same game. They're not the same. And the Game Boy game is definitely not the same game. And those games are wildly different than the Sega CD game and the PC game. And the PC game is different from the Sega CD game, even though the Sega CD is doing its best to approximate what's done on the PC. These are not ports.
If you had people sit down in a room and the game did not exist yet, and it was a bunch of executives and designers coming up with the one paragraph concept for what the game would be, if that can apply to multiple games, I'll say those can technically be the same thing. So yes, the Game Boy version, it's completely different technically from like the Genesis version, but it has the same idea, a lot of the same elements, basically the same genre. So you can have one Wikipedia page for that. The interactive movie cannot be on the same Wikipedia page.
The execution of that is what delineates games, though. It's what makes games so wildly different. Just calling them the same or the same experience, especially when you change story elements in the middle of it or endings, which lots of these games do, that's crazy.
But I mean, at some point, then every game is a bespoke thing, and there's no such thing as a port. Everything is its own
But
thing.
a lot of these are bespoke. They're like individually programmed. It's not just like they got to use everything from it. That's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of these games are not given enough credit. People just go port, and you're like,
but you're saying that like the concept of a port doesn't exist, and there is no port. Everything is a bespoke game.
No, I'm saying there are some ports, but most things we like sit down and call ports aren't really ports. They're like handcrafted individual like lots of them had to be recreated from the ground up. They like took the basic framework and said, okay, I see what they did here, but they had to make a brand new thing to work on like a Game Boy. They couldn't just they couldn't port assets. None of that stuff got translated over. So, like, what did they do? Someone already had the idea, but they created the system from the ground up in which to make that game.
So I don't know the technical terminology beyond, like, software ports versus, like, because a port is adapting software to another platform. Yeah. But when you think of, I mean, I don't know what you guys think of. When I think of ports, I think of like someone has access to the original like design docs and software and maybe like the source code, and they're adapting it to a new system. It's completely different when someone has nothing and they just make the same thing from the ground up, or something like similar from the ground up.
Yeah, I mean, they might have the design docs and stuff. Like they have access to that. It's like the same teams trying to make a thing happen, right? Like Nintendo is developing the Super Nintendo and the Game Boy version, right? But obviously, the same people can't make it, and the same engine isn't going to create it. So someone had to do something. Like they had to go do something, and I've always felt like not enough credit is given to that, and the experience you get is going to be vastly different. You're not going to play the game the same, especially going down to a Game Boy. You got like 2 buttons and a tiny gray screen and less everything, right? Because it's a Game Boy versus the Super Nintendo. Like these aren't going to be the same experiences.
Well, you know, Wikipedia has a whole section on porting of video games. A lot of Wikipedia action going on in this episode. But they said, beginning from the early 90s, ports at the time were often known as conversions, which are not true ports, but rather reworked versions of the games due to limitations on different systems. Which
I like conversion better.
It's definitely a more interesting thing than just a straight port. And this is a main reason I think that like Xbox 360 is where video games just become so boring because everything is exactly the same.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. Like that becomes a port. Like suddenly the PlayStation 3 version and the Xbox, it's just like the same stupid game.
They're all just different computers. Like there's no specific
Yes.
hardware quirks that make them interesting anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and people will talk about, the frame rate, and this is like, yeah, there are like the minor differences there. I find the differences to be minor. I know there's some people in there who are like, no, you don't understand the latency. I'm like, okay, maybe that's true, and you can yell at me, but I agree with you that this is like where games just become so homogenized that the idea that we even have 2 different systems, the PlayStation and the Xbox, seems ridiculous to me. Let's just throw in Steam too. It's like, why do we have any delineation between these things? Shouldn't these things just become publishers? Shouldn't you just publish games at this point and then like all work on some universal system? Why are we doing this thing where we pretend that the hardware matters?
Johnny, I don't think you'll have to wait much longer. Who knows how long Xbox will last at this point?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like much longer. Are we getting the Xbox Pro anytime? Is it going to be $800? When does that happen?
Oh yeah, people are really itching to buy a new $800 Xbox. I could tell.
Yeah, it seems like a winning strategy. Go ahead and do it.
I mean, what you're talking about, you want like Valve to make the Steam console, and like we stop having like all these different consoles, and just like, well, then we don't have to keep buying new games every generation. We just have our library of all our games, and it just goes. And it's digital, and people aren't even mad because people aren't mad buying Steam games because they know that they'll always have them. It's not like, every few years, like it's a new console, I have to make a new account, new games.
Basically, what I'm saying is the PC master race has won. That this is the future they didn't ask for, but that's what they're getting.
It's going to happen eventually. So I think Valve is going to make computers. They're going to try to consoleify the computer. They did like a half-assed attempt. They had these Steam PCs. They didn't work. Like it didn't have the full living room experience of a console. But then they made the Steam Deck. That's a fucking Linux computer. It's like the best, most consumer-friendly Linux actual computer ever made. And that's a huge success. And I think sometime, eventually, Valve is going to try to conquer the living room as well.
I think so too. And I do think the Steam Deck is pretty much a proof of concept that it can be done.
Buy Valve stock. Oh, wait, you can't because they just print infinite money. So why would they ever sell any of their stock? Oh my God, Valve must make so much money. Is Gabe a billionaire?
I'm sure he must be getting close to it. But who knows?
Holy shit, he's estimated to be worth $4 billion.
$4 billion. Remember, kids, billionaires are bad.
Dude was programming Half-Life 25 years ago.
You know why we're never getting Half-Life 3? Because he's got $4 billion. What could drive him to do so? The version of Lawnmower you should buy is the PAL Game Boy one because it is the rarer version and the most collectible. You know what I hate about this game and the movie in particular, Tyler? Is I hate the box art. I hate the face of this thing so much. That they try to put on everything. I just hate the face. I just hate the Lawnmower Man's face.
I was talking about Half-Life and then I got dropped. Since I was just talking about Half-Life, The Mist, one of the inspirations for Half-Life. relevant to the Stephen King episode.
Indeed.
Cyber War, The Lawnmower Man. The game Johnny almost forgot to put on this episode because there is no Stephen King book, Cyber War. It's the sequel to the Lawnmower Man games, but specifically the Sega CD/PC version, which I said was an interactive movie. And so, yeah, you think Dragon's Lair, you think like these shitty, everything's a QuickTime event. So you think like, okay, barely any gameplay, kind of like the minimum level of thing you need to technically be a video game is something like Dragon's Lair, where it's just, it has a stimulus on the screen. You have to press a button in response on the controller.
Everything is a QuickTime event.
Everything is a QuickTime event. Now imagine we took the QuickTime events out of that and turned the QuickTime events into menus. So this is a weird, stupid 3D interactive movie with like pre-rendered 3D garbage that looks like it's in the Lawnmower Man universe. But then every time the full motion video stops, it just gives you a menu of 3 choices of what you want to do next. It looks really bad. Like Lawnmower Man on Sega CD looks bad. This looks like, oh my god.
Yeah, like Seen It, the video game is what this feels like.
At least Seen It has like trivia.
But you only have like 3 choices in Seen It too. This feels like the same thing.
This has a solid 1 star out of 5 on GameFAQs out of 16 ratings. Do you know how hard it is to get 16 gamers to agree on anything, to like not even like raise it to 1.5 stars?
That is kind of remarkable when you frame it that way. Surely, though, this must have had a big release somewhere. Like, how many systems was this released on?
Because everyone's heard of Cyber War, the Lawnmower Man. It came out on PC, Mac. For some reason, just because it's the best console of all time and everything came out on it, it came out on PlayStation in Japan. Nuts. They would just release anything over there. And then it also was canceled for the 3DO, Sega CD, and Sega Saturn. You almost heard of this game. If it came out on PC, PlayStation, 3DO, Sega CD, Saturn, everyone would know at least that this game existed. Instead, you've never heard of this, and it's just terrible.
What this tells us further is they were really banking on like the original Lawnmower Man to be a bigger hit and like really push.
Was it not
sequels.
though? I mean, I feel like
it was a moderate success as a movie, but the game was not really. It's not.
I see a lot of copies of that Super Nintendo game. Maybe they were just clearanced out, and that's why everyone bought it.
People were insane for VR in the 90s. We thought it was going to be the thing. We were all sold a lie. I'm telling you, kids, we thought it was going to happen. We went to arcades and we saw these giant domes and we played mech games against our will because they were like, it's virtual reality. Kids, get in, pay $8.
Johnny, Cyber War, the Lawnmower Man. Is it just called Cyber War or is it called Cyber War, the Lawnmower Man? I don't know.
I think
I've seen it both
ways. It's just called Cyber
War. Cyber War is my pick of the show.
Okay. It's $50.
It's around $50. But if you collect big box PC games, you probably collect like, I want StarCraft and Half-Life and Monkey Island. You want like all the stupid like basic bitch stuff there's like a billion copies of. And then the other thing people want is weird boxes. If you have boxes that are like origami that fold in a weird way, you got that triangle box for Day of the Tentacle, the trapezoid boxes for games like Thief and Tomb Raider. People love weird boxes. This game has a weird ass box. Not because it has any kind of geometry or anything interesting about it. This box is plain red. It's a slip cover, basically, that's plain red, and there's this tiny hexagon cut out of it. And it's got the Lawnmower Man face shining through from the art in the back. It's so bad, it's good. It's maybe the ugliest box I've ever seen in a video game.
It's pretty wild. Yeah, that's the other thing. About the Lawnmower Man was a lot of hexagons. A lot of hexagons.
Oh, is the hexagon a reference to the Lawnmower Man? I didn't even.
Yeah. And all the assets and stuff too. The game again. This is a game based off of the movie, and the movie is very loosely based on the book. So does it count for Stephen King? Yes, because it's tied to him. Lawnmower Man 2 Cyber War is stretching it further. But but it all falls in the realm, and there's not enough Stephen King games for us to really be picky about. But this is what I'm saying. Like, how do we not have The Stand? How do we not have The Dark Tower? How do we not have It? How do we not have The Shining? We got fucking Lawnmower Man and The Running Man.
Sequel to Lawnmower Man before you got an It game.
I know. This is like, what are we doing here, people? Please. In madness. Anyways, shall we get to our last Stephen King game? This is my favorite because this is peak 2000.
It is.
This is like late 90s, early 2000s, and just when multimedia was everything. And if you don't know what I mean by multimedia, everything was trying to be like, oh, this has got like some video clips, and we've got some songs on here and a couple of games. This is like, oh, and here's a screensaver, multimedia. And here's like a little story in there too. So Stephen King was dragged into that, and Tyler's favorite name for a game, F-13. Tyler, do you want to tell us what F-13 means?
It's the F-13 function key, which is not on a standard keyboard now, but probably unbeknownst to Stephen King, because he probably uses typewriters like a nerd. IBM certainly made PC keyboards that had more than 12 function keys. So F-13 is a real function key, but Stephen King just chose it as the spooky fake function key that goes one beyond what's probably on your keyboard right now.
Yeah. Well, if you're looking down, you're like, function 12, and you're like, imagine if we went beyond, into the beyond to a function 13? Oh, yeah. Like, I can see where the idea is going. And especially in the multimedia era, that was 2000. That's what this game is. Let's talk about it. It's a collection of horror mini games, Tyler. Are you excited by that?
No.
Okay, well, that's good because it's, as I stated before, it's a multimedia blend. But this is not actually a Stephen King book. So this is weird. So okay, it's not it's not a book. Okay, but we come back and it does release a short story. The short story is Everything's Eventual, which eventually becomes the name of a book, which is a short story collection that collects previously published works. So it has the full story, Everything's Eventual, in here on the CD. The book came out in 2002, but this came out in 2000. So this is, I want to say the first place you can read it.
This is the first print of the book then?
Of the short story, the original release. But I want to say that Everything's Eventual was somewhere else before that, because I think it was in the Science Fiction magazine in 1999, and I think this came out in 2000.
You're the Stephen King guy. You tell me.
Yeah, no, it came out in 97. So this is not even the first print of it. This was already a story in the magazine of fantasy and science fiction. I said 99, but it was really 97. So years before this. So there's just more borrowed junk. They just like threw things in here.
I kind of like it. Not as a video game. This is a bunch of stupid garbage that's just like piled on top of the book. But I like the idea of buying this as the book, as just like an experimental weird thing. Because before the show, we were talking about how I love everything on computers from 1994 because it just seemed like people would throw anything into like the multimedia abyss, and it's just like a wonderland of different styles. Like there was no uniform UI. Like if you boot up a software program now, you would expect it to have a certain UI. And if you boot up something in 1994, it might throw you into like a 3D room where the menu is like walking through a mansion, and just like crazy shit all the time in 1994.
Yeah, there were no rules. People didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, and there is something to this as an ebook that I really like, because you can't say this is like, oh, it's the first ebook, because it's not. It's what's an ebook? An ebook is electronic words. Like there's probably the history of ebook probably goes back every year to whenever the computer was invented. But ebooks weren't really a thing in the year 2000. So the concept of releasing a whole book as like a product you would buy at Walmart, there's something kind of interesting about it.
I mean, it was just one short story novella.
Yeah, short story novella, sure. All right, yes. But I don't think it's a collection of like cheap bullshit. I think that the product is the short story because it gives you the interface to read the entire story. And then all the other bullshit are basically what you would find in like the box of an Infocom game, like all little like feely garbage.
Yeah.
You know, when you get like something with a video game, it's not a high quality thing. Like I've gotten, there's a pinball game that comes with a pinball. Like, oh great, I've got a 50-cent ball bearing with my game. But it's cool to have that stuff. And you know what? You get like desktop backgrounds and screensavers. It comes with Windows sounds, like it comes with WAV files you're intended to use to replace your Windows sounds. That sounds.
I used to love doing that.
Yeah, that sounds stupid today, but I cared about my screensaver and I cared about my Windows sounds in the year 2000.
I sure did.
I used the web browser Neoplanet specifically because I could put different skins and themes on it, and I couldn't do that in Netscape and Internet Explorer. That was a big deal, like customizing your computer with this stupid bullshit. And you couldn't, I mean, I'm sure you could just go on the internet and download it, but it's nice to have a nice packaged thing that includes all this stuff.
So it also, the desktop backgrounds it came with, the thing it would do, it would take your desktop background and make it would turn it into rotting wallpaper. So your desktop background would slowly degrade and start to peel and flake off, which I thought was a fun effect. There was multiple screensavers, like you said, sounds. The other thing it did was pranks. Do you know about the pranks that this thing did?
I don't.
So in the middle of the game, or like, because it has all these mini games on them, it would just like splatter blood across the screen or scream at you or put bugs or give you like the sound of flies to like try and scare you. It would do it like at random, seemingly. Obviously it's programmed, so it's probably not random, but it would give you these different effects at intervals to try and scare you during the game to add to that ambiance that they were trying to create.
I sure hope it didn't do that while you were reading the book.
I don't know. Probably. Programming was wild back then.
So it comes with mini games. The mini games are like absolute trash. It's like whack-a-mole. It's like whack-a-zombie. And there's one that's like a bunch of cockroaches going on the screen and you click them. It's like the mini game from Mario Paint, basically. But it's like a mini game that's a piece of garbage.
Cookie clicker.
And you go on YouTube and there are people like trashing this game because it's like, this game sucks. Like, we don't need like these 3 awful games and a bunch of screensavers. Because they write off the ebook part of it. Because text and ebooks are such a ubiquitous thing now in the world, like where you can have the Kindle app on your phone or iPad or something. I think it's maybe a little more interesting than on its face is very easy to hate, and maybe it's a little bit more interesting as a product than like a YouTuber calling it the worst thing ever made would say.
Maybe. I would give this a lot more credit if it was the first place you could read Everything's Eventual. Had it really given us something like the first time you could read it?
I think it would be worth like literally putting on your bookshelf next to all your other first print Stephen King stuff. Then it would be really good. Yeah, then I would like 100. That would be the pick of the show then.
Yeah, 100%. I would be telling you to go get it. Or if there was like even if that was just part of it and they had like a unique story in here that was the first print. If it had any of that, I would be so over it. But
you remember like how much I liked Interactive or Prince Interactive because it had original work by Prince. That was the first time he ever put it out, was in his fucking video game.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I guarantee came out in 1994 because everything good came out in 1994. But yeah, that would be awesome. Too bad it's not. By the way, Prince Interactive, 1994, best year in fucking computer software ever.
That game's expensive too. It's like at least $100.
Yeah. That sucks. Like, damn it. Like, not like a forward. Like, I don't know how hard it is to write a short story, but if you could write like just like something exclusive for this, just to make it like, just for the prominence, man, just so we could have a reason to put it on our shelf. It feels like there's maybe not a real reason to put this on your shelf. I want it to be more than it is.
Me too, Tyler. Trust me. Like, Stephen King fans are underserved in the video game world is the point of this episode.
Johnny,
we got a bunch of half stuffs.
F-13, this collection of screensavers and bullshit you've never heard of, $5 for the jewel case all over eBay. Who was buying this? I don't know. Maybe people just walking around Circuit City see Stephen King and they're like, oh, I gotta buy that. F-13, that key doesn't exist. There is one US big box copy. It was sealed. $50 buy it now, and you missed it. And that is the only boxed copy I've seen of this game, the American version. You missed it, dude.
Damn it.
I need everyone to set up a save search to screw Johnny out of his Stephen King game.
So, did you know that this was released in Europe first? That's another fun point.
That's weird. Why would they do that?
I don't know. It was hit Europe at the end of 1999 and January 2000 in the US. So there's your fun fact about this.
Oh, I had an inkling that Stephen King actually lived in Maine. I thought he was an American.
Well, as we've proved with things like the Lawnmower Man on Game Boy, sometimes they can go and be in Europe first.
Huh.
Or Running Man. A lot of this stuff is like European stuff. That's why I said we're going to get to it. There's going to be more European stuff in here. Anyways, yeah, I really want to like F-13 more. It's not that expensive. The box is a little bit boring. But it's fine. It's fine. I would include it in my Halloween collection, regardless. Okay.
What else do you got for me, Johnny?
Well, Tyler, that's it.
Jack, we haven't had a Stephen King game in the past 24 years.
No.
That's crazy.
So
that guy's been writing books.
There's been like I believe there was like iOS games and stuff like bullshit stuff like that made, but not real stuff.
Oh, come on.
Nothing real. There's been like,
you don't need the money, Steven. Make something worthwhile. Make art.
Yeah, like again, we've got like Alan Wake. There's like a Steam game called Blaine the Mono, or sorry, it's called Choo Choo Charles, which is basically Charlie the Choo Choo Train, which is a character from The Wastelands, which is book 3 of the Dark Tower, where it's a parallel to Blaine the Mono in Midworld. If you know any of this stuff, you'll know that this game called Choo Choo Charles is a reference definitely to the Stephen King stuff. So it's an homage to Blaine the Mono. And even like the train even becomes like a spider demon. Spider demons are significant in the Dark Tower. I'm not trying to spoil it for Tyler, who hasn't read it. Anyways, so Tyler, yeah, nothing has come out in 24 years. It feels, and Stephen King movies and stuff are having a renaissance right now. And just his new film, Life of Chuck, which is being done by Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan, who's worked with him, that's the guy who did Haunting of Hill House, Fall of the House of Usher, all that stuff, all the Netflix stuff. He just did this movie, and it won the film festival, and it's probably going to get nominated for an Oscar. Like, people are really high on this stuff right now. Where is the Stephen King stuff? Where is it? Where is it? Give it to me. We just had It movies that were successful. Come on, man.
Is that guy retired? He has not wrote a book in a while, and he's pretty old.
Stephen King? What are you talking about? He's not retired. He just released a book.
Did he? All right. I don't know. I'm looking at an out-of-date list.
Stephen King, like, he just did So You Like It Darker, which is a collection of short stories, because he typically does a lot of short story books, which was excellent, by the way. Go give that a read. Yeah.
Oh, he just came out with a book. Look at him. Look at this man. Still writing books. So he's going to write books till he's dead, just like George R.R. Martin, except for different reasons.
Oh, yeah. No, George R.R. Martin isn't going to write any books. He's going to die.
Let me clarify. Stephen King's going to put out books until he's dead. George R.R. Martin is going to write a book until he's dead.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for the clarification.
Big fans of George R.R. Martin on the Collector's Quest podcast.
That boat captain needs to get off his ass and get that book out, because I at this point I don't even care. He can go do whatever he wants. Him and Patrick Rothfuss can sit there forever and pretend like they're authors. All right, Tyler, I want to give you two specials, because we're talking about modern horror masters, and I think Stephen King doesn't exactly have a true parallel, but I think if we crossed the ocean and we went to Japan, we would find someone of maybe a similar ilk, at least. Do you know who I am referring to?
Junji Ito.
Yes, Tyler. Junji Ito. Do you think, someone who is also fairly prolific, do you think he has a bunch of games?
No. Also, I you did not write this in the document. I can't believe I got it right.
Yeah, you did. So no, it is Junji Ito. So good job knowing that.
That dude has games?
He has 2 games. 2 games.
Tell me one of them's on PlayStation. I want to buy it so much.
It's not. Do you want to take a few more guesses on what system it might be on?
The personal computer.
No, this is not a PC game.
Dude, what? I don't even know when Junji Ito wrote his books. So I don't even know the decade we're talking about. I think his stuff's from the 90s. So is it going to be on the FM Towns?
No.
PCFX? What do you got?
Nope.
Tell me what the games are.
I don't want to just tell you, but I'm going to just tell you. Tyler, both games are on the Wonder Swan.
Johnny, I'm about to buy some Wonder Swan games. What the
Are you?
Not when you tell me the prices, I'm sure, but what are Junji Ito's Wonder Swan games?
They are relatively hard to find, okay? And they're both it's the first in the game and then the sequel to that game, Uzumaki. You know this?
That's sure his most famous book, yes.
Yes. That's why I thought you might be able to get, yes. So that's, if you're unsure, if you're I think I know Junji Ito, and what is that? There's been movies based on Uzumaki and everything, and if I'm saying that in the most Western, horrible way, American way ever, apologies. But it's the curse of the spiral driving everybody mad. Yeah, so again, a prolific author who's contributed a ton to Japanese horror, obviously was inspired by a bunch of people, but has created prolific works, primarily known as a manga artist, but just a giant horror catalog in which to draw on. There's also a few Netflix series. There's the macabre tales of Junjun Ito. Man, I cannot say his name right now. Sorry. Anyways, those tales are on Netflix, and I didn't love them. Some of them were okay, but it wasn't particularly well received. But I'm telling you about this now, and anyone listening, because Uzumaki is getting a Netflix release. It's had a movie before, but it's coming out in America. There's an anime of it, but we're supposed to get one representing this here on American Netflix next year or maybe soon. I can't remember exactly when it's coming out, but now would be the time to get these games. Shall I tell you a little bit about them?
They look like visual novels.
They are visual novels, unfortunately.
Why can't they be interesting?
They're black and white visual novels on the original Wonder Swan. The first one, it primarily Uzumaki Nori simulation. That's curses. That game is a little bit less a visual novel. So are you familiar with the Wonder Swan at all? How you played in 2 different orientations?
Yep. Wonder Swan's crazy. The Nintendo Switch of its time.
Yeah, so you can play it. I think the first one you only play in landscape, but the second one, a lot of it is played in portrait. So it feels more visual novel, but there are some adventure elements, some navigating around it, but it's basic visual novel stuff, some puzzle solving. The first one follows the novel, but the second one adds, oh God, I want to get the exact title of this. Uzumaki Electric Mystery Edition. So it adds electricity into it somehow. I don't know how it does that. These games, unfortunately, are only in Japanese, so there's no... And if you look for Let's Plays or anything, there are some on YouTube you can find. Even I recommend putting in the Japanese kanji to get a better one, better video selection. But you're not going to be able to read it. So you can see what's going on, but because it's a visual novel, you're not going to ascertain too much. So yeah. Anyways, first one came out, Uzumaki Nori Simulation. That was in March of 2000. And it was made by, or developed by Omega Maikot, which was a partner of Bandai, and Bandai being the publisher. The second one came out in June of 2000, so like pretty close on its heels, made by the same people. They're both exclusive to Japan. Like I said, the second one continues the manga, whereas the first one follows it. So
see, this is what Stephen King needed. He needed original work in video game form.
Yeah.
Do you have both of these?
Tyler, do not yet have them in my possession, but they are ordered, and hopefully they arrive on Monday.
Okay.
Okay, and do you want to know some prices? Do you want to know what I paid for them?
I absolutely do.
Okay, so the first one, I paid about $70 for, and the second one, the first one I paid about $100 for, and then the second one I paid about $70 for, and they did show up, but there was not a lot of them. It wasn't like there's a dearth of these things. Like they were pretty sparse, and if you check Yahoo Solds, like they show up, but again, not a lot of them. So if you see one and you want it, and it's like in that price range, you should probably just buy it. And I think it will become more popular. And this is like pretty far from something I can recommend to most people, but this is my recommendation of the show for you because I know you like him and his work. So I think it's pretty cool.
Saying that you think a Japanese exclusive WonderSwan visual novel based on a late 90s manga is going to become more popular is one of the crazier takes you've had on Collector's Quest.
I don't think so. I think as people become more familiar with it, then yeah, people will search things out and buy things. I don't think that's a crazy take at all.
All right. You said what? There's going to be a Netflix series?
Yeah, it's they're doing Uzumaki on Netflix.
Like people didn't like his anime for whatever reason. I liked it. I don't know.
You watch the Netflix one?
The Netflix Junji Ito thing? Yeah. I like it because Junji Ito is my kind of storytelling. It's just like, hey, something weird's going on. Uh-oh, it turned bad, and it turned out bad for everyone. And then the story ends. I love him so much.
Yeah, you're like, oh man, this is going poorly. Is it going to get better? Are they going to be saved? No, they're also going to die horribly.
Credits.
And they did. Yeah, roll credits.
That's
like no
story.
Resolution. Yeah.
He's so good.
I think some people didn't like that series. I feel like one, because it was in English, right? Unless you were watching it dubbed, but the English language actors were, in some of the episodes, poor.
Oh, okay.
And annoying.
Oh, you guys watched the dubbed versions? Oh.
Yeah, I do. Let me give you one more recommendation. If you are into him, there's a couple of cool hardcover, like deluxe editions of the manga, especially for Uzumaki, that you can go get on Amazon for like $20. And you get like a nice big hardcover edition. If you're interested in that, you can go check that out.
Johnny, go on eBay. There's like graded 137th prints of Dragon Ball #1. Someone's going to grade something with that eventually.
No, thanks. Don't do that. Yeah, I hate that, Tyler. Stop it.
Johnny, I put a $50 bid on this WonderSwan game. It's cool, but I don't know. See, if I buy the first one, then I have to buy the second one, and the second one's more expensive.
No, the first one was more expensive for me.
Oh, really? The second one seems more expensive right now.
Maybe I found like a weird outlier, but
no instruction manual. Yeah, the only complete ones are like over $100 for the second one.
Yeah, mine fortunately are complete. Yeah, so it's Curse Simulation. I can give you the all my info on it if you want later. But anyways, these were the two I had special for you because I wanted to just bring in like, two horror masters and talk about it. And I know one of your favorite things to do on the show is dip into Japan and talk about all these Japanese games and how cool that stuff is. And these are 2 Japanese exclusives. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. And he would have worked on Silent Hills, and instead Konami is like, no, thank you.
Don't
we didn't want to make the best game of all time because then no one would buy any more video games. So we're not going to make Silent Hills, guys.
Wait, what is the story that you're telling me right now? What is this?
Silent Hills was going to be Hideo Kojima, Guillermo del Toro, and like Junji Ito. It was going to be the Chrono Trigger of horror, and they canceled it.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Silent Hills had like the all-star cast. It was going to be the perfect video game, dude. And everybody loved the demo. Ugh. So frustrating.
Man, why is Konami like this?
Cause pachinko, dude. It's, you know what? If you guys think that gambling doesn't harm you because you don't gamble, just remember the pachinko industry exists and Konami is making too much money to care.
Yeah, this is why we don't get nice Castlevanias anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got that limited run games collection.
They're all collections. They're not making new work. Remember the last one was a fucking fighting game?
Johnny.
Castlevania Judgment? Yeah, the Judgment was poor.
Oh my god. I didn't play Judgment. What else do you got any other Stephen King adjacent stuff?
No, that's the episode.
We're not going to go into the Clive Barker games after we went to the Junji Ito games.
There's 2 Clive Barkers. I wanted to keep it just balanced. Like, we got over here in America, we got Japan. I was just bringing in the two top dogs. We can talk about. There's a whole world of authors that we can talk about that have, books for their works. There's so many that we could bring in. But if you want, there's 2 Clive Barker games. Jericho, which is on Xbox and PC, and then Undying, which is actually pretty cool. PC game, but you are a paranormal detective in like the 1930s, so go check that out.
Undying has some clout. I don't know why, but people kind of remember Undying sometimes.
Yeah, it's well received. Also, quick note about it. So there's a small box PC version and the big box PC version. Obviously, the big box version's the better one to get, so get the big box one.
Great.
There you go. And Jericho was widely panned on the Xbox, but some people, like Tyler's friends, and Tyler, remember it well. So who knows? But yeah, go play Jericho. Easy to do.
Johnny, that's it.
That's it. We can move to the collector's question now.
Jason of PlayStationLibrary.com asks, what is the dumbest personal in-game moment or achievement that you love to this day and still shamelessly brag about? Real examples, no need to read on air. Here are Jason's examples, everybody. He beat UN Squadron using only the original plane. In order to beat the final boss, you have to wedge the plane into the weak spot's gap with only pixels to spare and fire away. You did a good job there, Jason. He won a race in Burnout Revenge by Sympathy. On the last turn, he hit a flatbed trailer, sending him airborne over the NPC truck. Before he could tell what happened, the "You won" screen popped up in the replay. You could see my car fly up and over the truck bed, then literally over the finish line just before the second NPC crosses it. Jason, Burnout Revenge came out in 2006? You remember of the finish, like a cool finish of a race in Burnout Revenge? Man, I don't think I remember
Pretty
anything wild. Sometimes this cool stuff like that happens in video games. We're like, oh my God, I won. I can't believe it. I didn't even mean to. But that's so specific. There's no way I have a story like that. My bragging rights are that I was top 10 in the world in the Palma West game, Bike or Die, which I love mentioning. It's a game that only 10,000 people were on the leaderboards ever. And at my peak, when 800 people were playing it, oh yeah, I was in the top 10. That's all I got. That's the one that I bring up.
How about you were sixth in the state of North Carolina at pinball?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at pinball. I don't know. That's not a video game though. Well, technically, if you want to really get into it. But
yeah. Well, mechanical actions and video screens. How does that work? Joe? The one I have, it's the same one. I brought it up on the show before. It's Area 51. one quarter, no death, 100% with the shotgun, made it through the whole game, beat it. That's it. I played that game a lot to get to that point. It wasn't like I just had a real hot streak. I was practicing a lot.
You're a nerd. Got it.
Yep.
Johnny, I got in 2016. I was 3rd in North Carolina, so don't bring up this 7th bullshit. I just looked it up just to make sure.
I said 6. I said
you
were
said
like
6. Yes, I've been 6th, 7th, but my top was 3rd. Okay.
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 Look,
I know it's not first. It would be cool if I was first. Okay, but you know what? There's a lot of people who play pinball.
I was trying to give you something more to brag about. You were like, I was 10th in pocket bike on the Iron Palm PC, a thing no one cares about. I'm like, no, Tyler, you did better than that. Let me tell you. Let me remind you. Now you're mad about it? Get your life together.
Tom Nook wanted to talk about Pinbot in the Discord today, and I was just giving him all the hot Pinbot strategies. I'm like, finally, someone I can help in pinball. My actual life.
Did he mean
purpose.
it Pinbot on the NES, though?
No, he meant his favorite real life pinball machine is Pinbot. Apparently, he has an arcade with a bunch of them, and he's like, I really like Pinbot and roller games. How good is my taste? And I'm like, well, you know, Pinbot is one of the most classic pinball machines of all time, so I guess you have pretty good taste.
To be debated.
Shackfish asks, would you ever let someone house sit for you, and what level of trust would be prerequisite?
Yeah, I do it like fairly regularly. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't, because imposing on someone to house sit for me seems like a hassle, but I would trust like my close friends. Like I would have Johnny or my close friends here over. I would not like pick a random person to house sit. I wouldn't have a cleaner over. I'm too paranoid to definitely have like a house cleaner.
I wouldn't use like a service. I mean, I've for my wife, when she's like, I don't have time and like, we don't have time to get this done. I want to make it seem like my wife is the one who cleans because I'm more of a cleaner than she is. But I've done it where she's like, we don't have time to get this done. I've paid a cleaner to come here. I don't have a problem with that. And house sitting, like my aunt has come over and done it. Like I have a dog. So, you know, so we leave for a week. I don't like to board him. That sounds horrible.
I dropped my dog over at my friend's house.
See?
What am I going to make my friend drive over to my house? No, have my dog. Take the dog. What are you talking about? You're going to drive here multiple times a day to walk this thing?
No. Well, my aunt, she just comes and lives here while we're gone. It's like
I didn't even know that was an option that people took advantage of.
Yeah, like my friend Gary did it too. He came and just like lived here for a week. I was like, here's all my stuff. Eat all my food, and here's like a couple $100. Please like watch my house.
That's crazy. No, I
like was
maybe
watching
this
my
is
dog.
a millennial thing because we don't
house.
like imposing on anyone, but I can't imagine having someone live at my house just to like upend their life like that.
I mean, you compensate them.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, how did that's 24-hour days. Even at minimum wage, we're talking many hundreds of dollars for that to really be worth it.
They go to work you go to work and you do your normal job. You just basically like sleep here and then like pet the dog. It's a sweet gig. Like, here's my big ass TV. Here's all of my sweet amenities. Like,
no, me dropping my dog off at your house is a sweet gig because people actually like my dog, so it doesn't feel as much
anyone
like
your dog? Hold on. You think your dog doesn't like you? How does your dog?
Oh no,
like
he's
other
got the
people?
worst personality, but he's the cutest fucking thing. So who cares? You don't like pets for their personality. You like them for their tiny little faces and their tiny little noses.
Like look, man.
Johnny. What fucking cat has any personality? Every cat is the worst thing ever, but they're like the cutest animal.
I don't like cats.
Yeah,
I'm not a cat guy.
But a lot of people like cats just because they look cute, even though they're awful.
I get that, but I'm a basic bitch. I got a golden doodle, and he's a sweet, good boy.
Final Fight CD asks, have you ever been pulled into an eBay auction because the seller put rare in the title?
I have searched for the word rare on eBay auctions, so does that count?
I have also searched for the word rare. I've not done it in a while, but I think I was curious what would show up. But It was like for some very generic console. Like it might have been like PC games, and I just put in like rare PC complete in box because I wanted to see what would come up.
Yeah.
So yes,
I
put rare in the
still
title. We've both done it. I assume we don't do it often, but it must have some effect.
Yeah. So, I mean, mostly I mock what I see. So it's like I don't feel like it's valid, but sometimes, well, you have to like. I think like I'm attempting, I believe, to think like a regular person who doesn't know what they have. They just know it's like, oh, this is kind of rare, and they're looking at other eBay auctions that do the same thing. So I just imagine those people might do it. So yeah, it's like I've searched and like, oh, what is that? Usually nothing comes of it though. It's not like I'm like, oh, look at all these good deals or cool things you're finding. Like I also will sometimes just put in a generic video game category and sort by highest just to see what's happening. I said if eBay wasn't awful now, we could probably still do that.
eBay is also, I put in Xbox 360 Rare into eBay. We're going to look at what comes up. The first things that came up are a bunch of consoles that don't have the title Rare in them. Magna Carta 2 doesn't have Rare in it. The eBay search is so bad. I know we complain about it a lot now. I was just looking for a specific type of cardboard box, like the most generic thing. There's a ton of it on eBay. And I put it in. There's like 300 results. I went to sort by lowest price, and all the results disappeared. It said there was 0 results for the same exact search query. Just
I
drives me
hate
nuts
when that happens. The problem is now, like you have to, like I've got Rare in there. You got to wrap it in quotes, and then you have to like remove graded, which I'm doing now. Remove WADA. Kingdoms of Amalur, Signature Collector's Edition. Deadpool, sealed because Deadpool got hot. I put this at just games and removed consoles, but still showing up consoles. Extremely rare NBA 2K Xbox 360 travel case, Nate Robinson edition. That seems rare. Skyrim first print, Canadian variant.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's not rare.
No. Tengai Makiyu.
What are you saying? Are you saying things that came up for Xbox 360 Rare?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm reading from the top down, highest to lowest. Yeah, Japanese game I can't really pronounce. Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, not rare.
What is it? Akai Katana or whatever, the shooter?
No.
All right. All right.
This is it's a Hudson RPG.
Okay.
A fleet of games, a graded Ultimate Alliance Gold Edition. Ooh, extremely rare. The box is emptied and stickered. Sealed Halo 3. It says this box is this box is empty sticker. So I believe we call these display boxes.
Yeah, those are pretty rare. I saw a graded one, graded Halo 2 display box on eBay. Oh, wow. Look at all these extremely rare display boxes. There's one for Doom 3 for $400. Reserve your copy today, guys.
Hey, how about rare Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 digitally autographed?
Johnny, what does digitally autograph mean?
I think it means printed on.
That's not what an autograph is. That's not... You need the auto. The auto refers to the person.
Yeah. Anyways, you got the Call of Duty World at War box set. Digitally autographed again. So there's multiple digitally autographed ones on here.
These are Xbox items?
Yeah. This is a very rare... I'm sorry. I'm going to just read the description. This is a very rare, very limited pre-order variant cover featuring the digital signatures of all the developers of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Please note that the signatures are printed and not actually signed in pen. Don't miss this opportunity to own this chance of amazing video game history. I hate when people are like, you have the opportunity to own video game history. Shut the fuck up. Just stop fucking saying that already. Please knock it the fuck off. Tyler, it drives me insane that people are just like milking this. Oh, it's been an honor and a privilege to own this piece of history, but now it is time for me to pass on the custodianship to someone else. Someone you're not fucking pulling the sword from the stone. It's just a fucking video game. Give me a goddamn break.
Yeah, I strongly agree with that, Johnny.
Just so
the thing is,
annoyed
I think
by it.
this variant is so fucking rad, even if it is printed autographs, because I don't know where you pre-ordered this from, but these aren't common enough where you pre-ordered it from like Target and you got it. So you might have had to like pre-order it from the Activision website. And if this is an exclusive from like the Activision website of a game as important as Modern Warfare 2, then yeah, I think this is an awesome variant. Maybe not a piece of fucking video game history. The game is a piece of video game history, not the Activision.com pre-order variant. Go get this piece of video game history, Johnny.
Man, I'm this like the one part like people are like, oh, we're grading history. Shut the fuck. Just man, this is the worst part of graded games. They brought in all these people who think they're fucking historians. You know, I already knew I was over all the people who were like, I'm building a library. Shut up. No, you're not. Okay. You're building a wall of bullshit in your mom's basement. I get it. I'm doing it too, but it's never being a library. Stop it off your silly dreams. Okay. Just knock it off. That's not how this is not a real museum. That's not how museums are.
I'm going to open a video game museum, Johnny.
Oh, it's gonna be witnessing video game history. And that, yeah,
have we talked about Jeppy's Museum on this, Jeppy's Entertainment Museum on this show?
I don't, probably we have.
Okay.
I
just want to, if you guys were never at Jeppy's, was this in Baltimore? It looks like they closed down in 2018. So they were active 2006 to 2018. It was just some rich guy's pop culture collection, as far as I understand, mostly comic books, but then like literally all pop culture stuff surrounding that. This guy, you're talking about like the 20th century, everything. Just you go in there like Action Comics 1, Batman 1. This guy had everything. And you walk into the museum and no one's fucking there.
No.
Like, it must have lost money. Like, I could not believe how empty it was when I visited. And he had all the coolest stuff. And, like, I'm a collector, so I'm nerding out over everything. I'm like, look at all this cool stuff. I don't even know what the comic books are, but just seeing, like, an entire wall of just, like, random Golden Age books, I'm sure a ton of them were, like, oh, issues that comic people would get excited over. It just looks cool seeing all this really old, really cool stuff. And no one fucking cares. Because it's his stuff.
You know what it is? It's a really cool YouTube video you watch for 8 minutes.
Yeah. So that guy's collection is literally 10,000 times than your fucking video game collection will ever be. And he couldn't make a museum work. How could anyone make a video game museum work?
But Tyler, I got most of the Xbox games and a complete Dreamcast set. Someone want to look at it.
The answer is you get a bunch of vintage arcade cabinets and you serve overpriced alcohol next to them. That is how you make a video game museum work.
You just post on Instagram. Just do what we all did. Just resign yourself to that in YouTube and feel okay about it. That's okay. Okay? It's all right. Stop lying to your wife that the end goal is this museum. And if that really is your end goal, stop trying to waste your retirement.
Okay, Stephen Jeppy, Johnny, he was the president and CEO of Diamond Comics.
Makes sense.
That guy couldn't make a fucking museum work.
If you don't know who Diamond Comics is, the distributor for comics and collectibles, are they still?
Yeah,
I don't know who distributes comics. So yeah, like if that guy can't do it, no one's doing it.
I mean, he did it. He forced it to happen for 12 years. I doubt it ever make money. It's probably like some kind of tax write-off.
But that's the thing. Like museums, like this, you would have to have more than that. It's too niche to like bring in people. Even though, yes, video games are the largest entertainment property in the world. Yeah, sure, all that stuff. All that sounds good on paper, but like, to get people through the door, it makes a nice exhibit at the Smithsonian. It makes a nice exhibit that maybe travels. Like, but you have to have a narrative, okay? You have to be like, this is the story of this stuff and this is what it does. Did you see pictures of the Nintendo Museum? What a ghastly sight that was.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it. The Nintendo Museum looks awful.
Just terrible.
They're they've got like the video games don't look good. Like they've got like the black boxes and the Famicom small boxes in one case, but then they have this case that's full of like all the old vintage Nintendo toys and board games and things like that. Literally just like stacked on top of each other, nothing displayed, no plaques, nothing. It's just like, yeah, look at, there's just like a bunch of old shit we took out of the archives. Here it is. Yeah. All right. Go play with the giant Nintendo Wii remote. That's why you're here.
Yeah, like really that kind of stuff, like to make that work, you have to have like, here's a history. Like, oh, here's Nintendo's earliest things up into the black box release, which eventually became the NES and featuring Mario, one of the most amazing games of all time. And eventually we sold all these other systems, but that's like the trail of the sentence, okay? Like moving into the future. That's it. And you're talking like a 10 by 12 area displaying all of this. And that's just one exhibit amongst a bunch of other exhibits. It's not going to be the whole museum.
Johnny, I'm gonna make a video game museum work.
Oh, cool. Can I join you?
No. I don't, I mean, I think there is a video game museum in Texas, I think.
Sure.
Like you have to have like interactive exhibits. Did we talk about this?
I think we've talked about it before.
All right,
we've
whatever.
been on this rant before, but who knows the last time we talked about it. It's like, is it completely impossible? No, but you have to be doing more. You can't just be like, I just want to dissuade all these people who are like, I got a bunch of games on the shelf, so I'm making a museum. This is a museum now. Come look at my museum. You're just a dude who likes to collect games and put them on the shelf, and that's okay. We're your people, okay? But now all these graded game guys are like, I'm collecting history. Come look at the history of games. Look at it. Stop it. Just
Johnny, I've got so much
off.
history. Come on, Johnny, I got cool stuff. You know what? You know, like Johnny, Stefan has like some really cool stuff, and like all of his stuff is one of a kind. Like Stefan could not open a museum, obviously. But
he does the right thing with it. He takes it to a show, does a little showcase, comes back.
Exactly. And you know what? Stefan could have like maybe an exhibit at a real museum somewhere. Oh, yes. That would be cool. But he can't pay rent.
It's cool to see it. You should go see it. You should go see, if Stefan sets up somewhere by you, you should go look at all the Nintendo Power stuff. It's pretty cool. Is it going to draw in a whole museum of people? No, it is not. Not every day, 365, year round for enough to bring in, like to make money. You're not going to be like, and I opened a museum here and I can definitely pay rent on this retail space with the money I make from this, even if I am getting a kickback for being a charity. It's
now,
not
Johnny,
happening.
I do know, I'm trying to think of multiple. It might only be one. I know one video game collector who has had a successful museum exhibit. And I'm not talking like at Portland Retro Gaming Expo, Johnny. On Reddit once, I saw someone brought his video game collection, like very modest, just like all like the popular consoles and stuff and like the big games for them, to his local library. And they let him put it in like the glass cases at the front as an exhibit. So
that sounds awesome. Do that.
Maybe go to your local library and you could put some cool video games on display and be like, hey guys, check it out. It's Mario 3.
You could probably set it up where you get like a school field trip and talk to some third graders about it. That would be awesome.
Oh, yes. Third graders will definitely care. Man, what do third graders even think if they saw a bunch of old video game consoles? They're just like,
maybe
that's not...
maybe junior high students. I don't know.
But I mean, yeah, they'd be like, that's not Roblox on my iPad.
Yeah, Roblox. Like, how did this guy get enough gift cards to afford all of this? How many points did he spend? God, Roblox is the devil. I've already had my son ask me about it, and I was like, absolutely not.
Oh, get him in on Roblox.
No, that's just addiction.
Johnny, I'm 35 years old. I have one friend who occasionally asks me to get on Roblox, and it's crazy. So he finds like whatever stupid game he's into and he makes me play it with him. And every other single person they're all multiplayer games. And every other person is like 6 years old. And they're saying the craziest, most racist, horrible shit. All of them.
God.
It's just the worst place.
Yeah. Man. Look, they've got Beetlejuice skins in Roblox right now and I'm still not there, okay? This is not happening.
All right. You know what? I mean, Roblox, they make like the ungodly amounts of money. Like once Roblox figures out how to pivot into Like the
museum?
6-year-old segment. I mean, that's the next Tesla. We should all be investing in Roblox stock.
Just imagine if we could have Roblox make a museum for us.
I mean, you could make your museum in Roblox, and then it will be in the metaverse.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Anyways, you're not making a museum. Shut up. Stop telling me you're collecting history. Stop saying you're collecting history, so then you can then sell it later for a higher price, and then act like you were just some knight guarding the fucking Grail. Okay, just stop it,
Johnny. I'm collecting history mostly.
Oh yes, it has been a long stewardship, but I can continue no further. Please take on my quest. Shut the fuck up. God, you fucking pompous, overblown idiots. Just knock it off. All right, sorry. I'm done ranting about it. I just feel very angry about it.
All right, Johnny, that's it for collector's questions.
Yeah, I don't even know what the question is anymore, but fuck, I hate museums.
Don't remember at all. I want someone to take the fact that I've played Roblox a couple times and take it as like, oh, Roblox is moving into the core gamer market. Tyler played a couple games of Roblox, and I just want them to buy a bunch of Roblox stock, thinking it's going to the moon now.
Yeah, it's definitely going to the moon. All right, let's see if all of my ranting makes it into this episode. We'll see.
I'm too lazy to cut stuff.
Oh, good. All right, Tyler, let's move on. Tell me, what are you playing and what did you buy?
Nothing.
What?
Oh,
you didn't buy anything?
The big thing I bid on last episode where I said I was going to buy a hot water heater if I didn't win it. I guess I'm buying the hot water heater. It was an original copy of Space War with provenance from MIT, where Space War was developed. It's not like the first print of Space War or anything, but it was. So Space War came on punch tape, basically punch cards that are linked together. And I don't think anyone is ever going to fake a copy of Space War, but it had provenance going back to MIT, which is literally the best place you can get a copy of Space War from. It is the first popular video game. You could have whatever debates about whatever the first video game is. It's the first popular video game. It would have been super cool to own. And it went for $19,000, which doesn't feel like a lot compared to what stupid random garbage sealed stuff sells for. There's a copy of Space War at the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I got that.
It does have a video game exhibit.
But I am just some guy that can't spend $20,000 on a piece of old computer tape. So, oh well.
I'm sad you lost. I'm sorry, Tyler.
Yeah, Joe was really rooting for me too. Joe was trying to loan me money to bid higher.
Got to give it to Joe. He was trying.
That's it. And then I bid on a copy of Uzumaki for the Wonder Swan. We'll see how that goes, Johnny.
I hope you win that. It's like after he lost Space War, depression crept in and he could not bring himself to play video games nor buy them.
That's it. I played a little bit of World of Goo. Because the second one came out and I forgot they've only got it on either it's their own website or the Epic Game Store, and I'm like, I'm not gonna buy a game on the Epic Game Store. You're bringing it to Steam. Don't pretend that this game's not coming to Steam, you motherfuckers. I'm not going to the Epic Game Store.
It's not already on Steam?
No, they specifically didn't launch it on Steam because Valve takes 30%, and they're like, well, we're World of Goo. Fuck you. We can make it on the Epic Game Store, and I'm not buying it. We'll see how it goes. So I booted up the original World of Goo. To see, because I never went and I got all the OCD completions of the levels, and I went through the first 3 levels and I'm like, oh, this is way too tedious and hard, and then I uninstalled World of Goo. That's what I played, Johnny.
I've played World of Goo.
That's a good game.
Weirdly. Yeah. My wife also likes World of Goo quite a bit.
I think everybody likes World of Goo. It's kind of one of the games of that indie revolution that got incredibly popular.
Yeah, what's the other one? Inferno? What's Inferno?
There's
something?
Little Inferno. There's a programming game. Yeah.
I think she likes that better. Anyways, Tyler, I played nothing. It was a lot of work and a lot of getting stuff done, unfortunately. I did buy some stuff though. a lot of it hopefully arriving on Monday, like those Uzumaki games. So big hopes for that, right?
Pretty cool. I just heard about those on the Collector's Quest podcast.
Yeah. Even Tyler can learn something. I was so happy you hadn't heard of them. I was pretty sure if you had known about these, you would have brought them up in a previous Halloween episode before this. So I was really glad I got to surprise you with them.
It's good stuff, Johnny.
Yeah, I knew you would like them. I got some good stuff coming. I got a Japanese game, but I bought in America Final Fantasy IV for the Wonder Swan. Have I told you about the Wonder Swan? You ever heard of
buying Wonder Swan games? What are you doing?
Dude, I own so many Wonders. I own like 12 Wonder Swan games now. This is very weird. Also, the Wonder Swan, spoiler, has a high density of horror games. I don't know what's going on. There's not that many Wonder Swan games. But yeah, I got a lot of them. Then I bought some Halloween stuff that I don't really want to talk about. I got Robotech with the DVD edition. I was waiting for a good copy of that to come up too.
The Xbox game or the PlayStation game? PS2 game?
Well, it's PlayStation 2, Xbox 360, and GameCube.
Yeah, well, which version did you get?
I bought the GameCube one with the DVD.
Okay. Because
the GameCube one, I'm going to do one of my dumb Instagram videos on this because I'm doing a whole series of these. The GameCube game comes with the DVD in a paper sleeve put inside. The Xbox and the PS2 version, because they have like those dual DVD cases that like you can get, just come and the DVD is just like slapped in there. So yeah. Also, GameCube one, rare. Everyone wants to ask like $150 for this if it's got the DVD in it. I found the DVD separately for like $5. And it's also in the Xbox and the PS2 version, so you could cannibalize it, and those aren't very expensive. You just got to find the one with the little print that says DVD included, because there's a regular edition, there's the DVD edition, there's also an edition with a mini strategy guide in there that looks very similar, and then of course there's that big box collector's edition as well.
I remember there was hype around the big box collector's edition being rare. This was a long time ago. Yeah. And then I collected Xbox and I just got one and I had like my pick of the litter and I was just like, this shit's not rare. No. Collector's Quest not pick of the episode is the ugly ass, too big Robotech Battle Cry Collector's Edition.
Yeah, man, it is ugly. It's a giant silver box. It is system specific, those boxes though, so do be careful that someone has not switched that out on you. I have seen it.
Crazy. And what is it? I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, I saw like two of them back in the day with like the wrong game in it. You're just like, get out of here! What are you doing? It says what's supposed to be on.
Because they got the controller icons on the back.
Yeah.
All right.
So, anyways, yeah, it's a really ugly box. I think there's like a shirt in there or something.
There is a shirt.
And so
is there not a shirt? Yeah, there is a shirt.
Yeah. So it says limited edition. The PlayStation 2 one right now is like $80 to $100. So like not hard to get. If you want the PlayStation one, okay? So it's there.
Johnny, what else you got?
Stuff that's just gonna be in the Halloween episodes. So I just don't want to like keep talking about all the things we're gonna talk about.
Okay, just don't say that you're not gonna talk about it. Just gotta cut it then.
Okay, Tyler. Well, you asked me, and I'm just answering your question. What do you want me to do? Just fucking say nothing to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Johnny, what else you got?
Are you talking? You okay?
No, I'm doing the thing you asked me to, not talking.
But you asked yourself. You didn't say, "Hey, Tyler."
I was illustrating why that was a bad idea. All right.
That's it for the show.
That's it. We did. Tyler, shall we tell people where we can find you? It's a joke, Tyler. You can find Tyler right here on Discord. Message him. His DMs are open. Slide in. And you can find me on the same place. That's it. Instagram, some YouTube, TikTok, all the socials. You can find me at Johnny_Iucci. Hey, that's the end of the episode. I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank specifically or doubly our patrons for letting us go to conventions and stuff and kicking a little money to us so I can buy games for Tyler once in a while. And if you want to ask us questions or be part of our Discord, you can do that by going to patreon.com/collectorsquest. It's $4. You get the bonus episodes. You get to hang out with us and be amongst all the best people. That's it for the show. Thanks again for listening. Hope you guys are going to have a spooky Halloween, and we will talk to you soon. Bye!